All the excitement and anticipation of a college football game in racing's biggest stadium-style arena, and all the on-track action of the Roman Coliseum. That's what you get when you come to Bristol. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip high atop what they call Thunder Valley as we get set to go for 500 laps. This place is as much fun as it can be fickle. Last year, Jeff Burton won the race after leading just 2 laps. And Denny Hamlin, he's led the white flag lap here the last 2 years in a row, but can't get into victory lane. Darrell, you've won here 12 times. What is it about this place?
Well, you know, you just can't let your guard down. You've got to stay up on the wheel. That's where that term came from, right here, up on the wheel. And you got to stay up on that wheel for 500 laps. And you can't take anything for granted. You can't assume anything. You got to make sure, and you got to do it all day long if you want to end up in victory circle.
And I think, you know, it's going to be a day of comers and goers. The entire field was only separated by half of a second. We've got guys like Matt Kenseth, like Jeff Burton, Carl Edwards starting at the back of the field. They've got fast race cars. Clint Boyer, he's fast. And how about Dale Earnhardt Jr., the fastest car in final practice? He's all the way at the rear. But I think we have some guys at the front like Reed Sorensen, Dave Blaney, Todd Bodine that maybe don't have that good of a race car that got a good qualifying run. In the pre-race, Darrell had a great plan. They're going to meet in the middle. Problem, there's not enough room to meet in the middle. That's the whole problem at a half-mile racetrack.
Collision!
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Let's have a look at the starting lineup for today's race. Sterling Marlin picked off the last spot, Reagan and Menard. There's Jeff Burton, who won here last year, starting way back, as is Carl Edwards, Bobby Labonte. Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes to the rear there with 2-time winner this season, Matt Kenseth. Kurt Busch, our winner at Atlanta, Clint Boyer, Harvick. A lot of big names toward the back of this field, but zero in on that 11 car. Denny Hamlin driving in the FedEx Toyota, starting right about midfield. Darrell?
Denny Hamlin, it's a DW. You got a copy, buddy?
10-4.
Hey, buddy, it's been woulda, coulda, shoulda. That 11 car's got a lot of history today. Can you take her to victory circle?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the last 2 years has taught me that you can lead on 499, but not 500. So it's time we get one back for this 11 FedEx seat.
Buddy, are you excited about today's race? How do you feel? You feel good? Are you pumped up?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the most physically demanding racetrack that we have all year long. You know, it takes a lot out of you. You just got to stay focused, and that's the biggest part, is staying focused, watching out for the wrecks, make sure your car's clean at the end. Looking forward to it. I think our whole FedEx team prepared a great car for me. Yesterday, we were really good.
All right, my friend, make that 11 car stand tall today, and good luck to you.
10-4.
Let's take a look at our FedEx Understanding the Race. Some trends the last 8 spring races here at Bristol Motor Speedway. The longest green flag run, about 98 laps. We normally don't have a green flag pit stop, but that's about the average over the last 8 races. The last caution, normally about 30 laps to go, but the last 2 races we've had a caution in the last 5 laps of this race. And how about cars running at the finish? On the average, 36 of the 43 cars last year, all but 1 was still running at the checkered flag.
Make it a great race day with a perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, a great American lager.
And Larry, when people say, how do you win here? If you look at Jeff Gordon, you look at guys that are successful here, you got to finish. You got to finish with all the fenders on the car if you want to try to win here.
Mark Martin on pole for the 2nd race in a row. A feat that Martin accomplished once prior in his career 20 years ago.
He went 257 races, I think, without a pole. Now he has 2 in a row. There you see 500 laps around this half-mile racetrack. Pit road speed almost the entire distance of the racetrack, 30 miles per hour. The pit window for Sunoco Race Fuel, 140 to 50 laps. Chris Myers mentioned it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the rear, transmission change.
Well, the lights are out, Larry. The lights are out.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we're saving electricity. No, we're ready to race. In Thunder Valley, this place nearly filled to capacity. There were tickets available this week for the first time in a long time to see a NASCAR Cup race at Bristol.
DW, first short track race of 2009. Reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time.
Oh, yeah, boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's do the Bristol stomp, boys.
Greg Biffle got a good jump on Jimmy Johnson on the break, jumped up to third. Behind our front row cars, Martin and Ryan Newman.
I think Biffle will be good today if those ribs that he hurt on his boat dock, if they don't come a problem for him today, he's got a fast race car.
Tell you what, Ryan Newman, he wants the lead. Mark Martin in that 5, he got his 5 bonus points. How about Newman? He'll take the lead here on lap 3.
And Mark, it's a veteran move right there. Move out of the way and let that faster car go. Otherwise, he'll wreck you. Early in the race, I'm talking. Now, I don't want to see that all day, but right now it's okay.
Jeff Gordon moving up as on Dave Blaney. Blaney had a great qualifying run. So did Todd Bodine among the sponsorless teams or minimally sponsored teams, but both of those cars not so much advancing, and Jimmy Johnson takes third spot back from Greg Biffle.
Tell you what, Dave Blaney in the 66 was one that I talked about in the opening about being a little concerned about their race trim, but he looks pretty solid right now here in the early going.
Blaney's a great little driver, and of course that car hadn't finished any races this year, but it's made all of them.
His car owner, Phil Parsons, ran in the Legends race here last night. Got a good 6th place finish, driving a car of the same number.
I've been watching this 26 car of Jamie McMurray. He is working that high groove, and that's where he's passed every car that he's passed in the 2nd groove off the bottom.
See, up until they redid the racetrack, the first time you saw somebody up the track, we'd be screaming, he's up the track, he's in the wall. Not anymore. A lot of grip up there.
Now, I mentioned Todd Bodine in the 64. He's kind of hung on the outside of this 2nd pack. Here they come. And Eric Almirola and Michael Waltrip working to get past.
Yeah, Todd just got in, or Michael just got into Todd. I don't know how much damage it did to Michael's car, but it sure looked like he got a piece of that right front tire.
Oh, 3 wide for a second there as Martin Truex tried to take advantage. Things are pretty much jammed up from right there on back.
But look at the cars. There are places to go. There didn't used to be any place to go. By now, we're on our 10th lap. We would have the leader at the back of the field trying to lap cars. Today, there's a pretty good gap because these guys can race each other and not be held up by someone.
But I tell you, that's what really makes it interesting as we're riding with Denny Hamlin. Darrell talked to him on the pace laps. Right now, Hamlin has actually fallen back, or he stayed about where he started. He's in the 23rd position. But yeah, that's what really changes the complexity of the race, is when the leader catches the back of the field, that pulls everybody up to the leader.
Jimmy Johnson just moved under Mark Martin on the front straightaway to take over 2nd place.
And I talked to Chad this morning, and he said that Jimmy was really happy with the car. The car was nice and snug. They didn't think if they were going to fight anything today, it might be a little push in the car, but he felt like he had a great car for the race.
Johnson just about 7/10 of a second behind race leader Ryan Newman. And here's Kyle Busch, who started 19th in the number 18, running 14th alongside Scott Speed.
I just hope that Kyle Busch has put yesterday behind him. He finished 6th in the Nationwide Series race, had a car to win the race. They had a snafu on their last pit stop, had to go to the tail end of the longest line late in the race. He could only get back to the 6th position.
I got to tell you, though, he's learned his lesson. He threw his stuff in the car and he left. He didn't stay there and say something that would have gotten him in trouble. I think he's really matured a lot. I know he got hot yesterday, but I would have hot too if I'd have been him.
He just moved past Reed Sorensen in the 43 car. Reed was one of the ones I talked about. He's fallen back to 14th now.
Tony Stewart coming up behind him in the 14. Jeff Gordon has caught David Rudiman. Rudiman in 5th, had a strong practice in qualifying. Now Jeff goes to the bottom. His last time through turns 1 and 2, he was way high up the racetrack testing that high groove.
All right, now action's going to pick up here very shortly from about Todd Bodine, Joey Logano, back here to Joe Nemechek. That little group right there, because they're going to, Spotter's going to be saying, the leader's coming. Quit letting those guys hold you up. And that's when we have trouble.
Gordon gets 5th as you watch that battle on the left of your screen from Todd Bodine in the 64 from 23rd on back.
Yeah, he's on the same straightaway almost as that group. 20 race cars.
But we're at coming up on 20 laps, and the leader is just about ready to put the 09 car Sterling Marlin a lap down in 20 laps. And it won't be long, 10 more laps, and he'll be looking at the whole back of the field.
See Kurt Busch there in that 2 car. Just did not get a good qualifying run in on Friday.
And just so you know who's in that group, Kevin Harvick is in that group, Dale Jr.'s in that group. That's Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth. These guys are going to have to make something happen.
Clint Boyer was getting aggressive with Paul Menard, trying to find a little racing room. As you're right, Darrell, suddenly the rearview mirror is beginning to fill up for some of these fellows toward the back of the pack, and that includes last year's winner here, Jeff Burton. Ryan Newman, your leader in Bristol. Lap 27, John Andretti's single car spin has put us under the first caution of the day. Krista.
The 48, Jimmie Johnson stayed out. The 18 of Kyle Busch, a little bit tight. He comes in for just 2 tires. Matt.
Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon, 3rd and 5th, both going for right side tires only.
And Mark Martin wins the drag race off pit road, the very unique situation here at Bristol.
If all you're going to do is give me 2 tires, I'd have stayed out.
I like staying out. You know, he's got about 7 other cars that stayed out with him, including Carl Edwards, who started way back in the 38th position. I like the fact this early in the race, only about 25 laps on your tires, of staying out at Bristol.
I do too.
And that's what Jimmie Johnson did. He did not pit, nor did Dave Blaney, Marcus Ambrose, Todd Bodine, Elliott Sadler.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Gillette Fusion, Gillette's closest, most comfortable shave. By Sprint, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. By Toyota, moving forward. And by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Now add to that list of drivers who did not stop Carl Edwards and Paul Menard. So Mark Martin, who came out first, will restart 8th. And Darrell, here's why we're under caution.
Looks like John Andretti just got a little too high. It's a little early in the race for debris to be a problem. He looked like he just lost the car up high. Now the problem is he's going to slide down here and boom, mess up that man's barriers.
Hit the Fitch inertia barriers.
I think desperation was setting in for John Andretti. The leaders were coming.
A bunch of guys were getting ready to panic. Well, spotters.
So at the time, Sterling Marlin was the only car that had been lapped by Ryan Newman, so he will get the free pass and come on around. Carl Edwards was one of those drivers who stayed out and did not pit. And there's the duck for today's Aflac trivia question. What's the record for the most laps led in what is now the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series?
How many laps is this race?
Here, you're talking about here, right?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Most laps.
Most laps led in one race. Just to warm you up for this one, 86 times in what's now the Sprint Cup Series, a driver has led every lap of the race.
86 times.
A lot of those happened at the little quarter-mile Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and a lot of those races were 100 or 150 lap affairs back in the 50s. In fact, Tim Flock did it 10 times, led every lap of the race. But it's only happened 3 times in the modern era. Jeff Burton at New Hampshire led all 300 laps. Cale Yarborough at Nashville led all 420 laps. And the one that's our answer, which we'll see in a minute.
Yeah. Now, you said about staying out. Remember when I told you somebody was in jeopardy going a lap down, which was the 99 car, and a couple other cars that were right in that little cluster ahead of him? It made sense for them to stay out.
Track position.
This is what it takes if you have a bad qualifying run.
Looks like we're ready for our first clear to drive restart. Live Claret clear indoors and out. 32 laps complete this time by the Ford Shelby Mustang, the 2010 version. Pulls off onto pit road. Here we go.
How do you know it's a 2010?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I do know. I will tell you. How about Dave Blaney? Driving for Prism Motorsports. He's up on the wheel and he's around off John Andretti.
Stay there. Stay.
I mean, the whole field is coming at that 66 car.
What did you say about Dave Blaney?
Left rear, sorry.
I said he was doing a great job.
He was, except John Andretti got in his way. Right here, John Andretti's a lap down from that wreck he had over there a while ago.
John's car just moved up the racetrack ever so slightly, just enough to get into that left rear quarter panel of Dave Blaney.
And I know Phil Parsons right now is about ready to be tied.
Well, this is interesting. Guess who gets the free pass?
John Andretti.
John Andretti. Yeah.
I know. I thought if you caused the caution, you couldn't get a. Well, I guess.
I don't know if it's if you caused it or a part of it.
The word is involved. And we are now told there will be no free pass. Justice is served. We'll be right back. Ready for the restart next time by. 1973. Cale Yarborough was up on the wheel. He led every one of the 500 laps here at Bristol.
What car was he driving?
Probably Junior Johnson.
It probably was.
Yeah. Ready to go green, single file restart, but for John Andretti, who's a lap down, and look at the moving conveyor belt.
This is what kills you. Single file restart essentially with 40 cars still on the lead lap. When Jimmy Johnson takes the green flag, you're still going to see cars coming in the frame on the backstretch. In fact, we've got cars that are back there like Scott Speed that's over a half a lap down on this restart.
Double foul right away. They're going to have to work their way past Andretti. Everyone else is on the lead lap except the 34.
I'll tell you that outside right now, though, is coming in. I tell you, and it's going to be. It's really going to make this race interesting because we see the 18 car there working the outside. Now he goes to the bottom.
Now a couple of the cars that stayed out, Todd Bodine, the 64, and the 98 of Paul Menard, were not quite as quick as some of these leaders. So things may jam up a little bit here from about 7th on back.
Well, you really don't know how quick you are until you get up here like they are. Because when you're back in traffic, it looks like you can't go anywhere. You get up near the front where it's a little more clear sailing. Sometimes you got a better car than you think you do.
Kyle Busch coming to the front alongside Mark Martin, makes the pass, and he actually used the lap car of John Andretti as a pick to move up to 5th place.
Yeah, he's got the outside. It's really working for him. He got 2 tires. Looks like that's a hot tip to me.
I can't help but remember this is the 2nd anniversary of the debut of this new car with the wing on it, what we call the car tomorrow, now the car. And Kyle Busch won that very first race here back in March of 2007 driving for Hendrick Motorsports.
He's got Carl Edwards on the inside. Remember, Carl did not pit for tires under that caution.
See, right now there's no reason to hold somebody up. The spotter, the crew chief, everybody's got stopwatches. 18's quicker than you are. Let him go.
And Carl Edwards has actually won the last 2 fall races here, and you see the biggest mover. And a big part of that is because Bob Osborne and Carl Edwards decided to stay out. But they have just not had their arms around this 99 car since the track opened for practice on Friday. Now he's going to lose another spot to our pole sitter, Mark Martin, in the 5.
Too bad. Good job.
But just remember, he doesn't have tires. The other guys do, so he's going to pay a little bit of a price.
Yeah, I think what those guys that stayed out would love to see is maybe about a 30 or 40 lap run. Caution would come out, everybody would come back to pit road, and they'd gain their track position.
That's the gamble you take right now. Get me up there and let me see how far we can go before we get past.
Ryan Newman trying to make the move on Edwards for 6th place.
We do need to mention that Dave Blaney in that 66 car, who qualified in the 8th position, was involved in that last caution. Right now, they are in the garage area trying to repair that car.
What makes this place so much fun is when you drive off in the corner here, you just kind of run down a hill and you just bottom the car out almost right in the center of the turn. Then when you turn and start up out of the corner, it just rocks you back in the seat, almost like riding a horse.
The right rear and the right front of the wall. I think I got the toe bump.
They're talking about Matt Kenseth, and here's what happened to him a lap ago on the front stretch.
Whoa.
Got loose, corrected, hit the right rear, then hit the right front. Right now, Matt is back in the 33rd position.
Really off, but it feels a little tighter.
All right, Kenseth's running 33rd. Dick Berggren.
He just is tight in the middle, Mike. He's been tight in the middle all day before the first caution period came out. He said that, like Biffle, they just couldn't get the car to turn in the middle, and that's now driven him into the wall.
And Darrell, what I would say, the car wouldn't turn. Then when he gets late exit, finally the front wheels were biting because he had the wheels turn and the back got loose.
I think exactly, but what I was listening to is the noise. I mean, we've got noise canceling headsets on those guys down there, and you still can barely hear.
That's the aggravation a crew chief has to go through.
Yeah, you got to fight that all day long. We're just getting started. Tell you a guy that's really hanging tough, Larry, is that 47 car. I was just looking at him, and Marcus Ambrose running second and holding his own really well.
Boy, Denny Hamlin threaded the needle in the 11 to get through that pack. Nice job.
Denny's running in the 18th position, just went by Martin Truex Jr. in the 1.
3 wide into 3. Now Casey Kane tried to thread that same needle in the middle of turn 2, and they carried it 3 wide all the way down into 3 and got away with it.
Now on the old track, the next thing you would have said 3 wide, and the next thing you would have heard is cautions out.
Right.
And then the next thing you would hear, will it crank? Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Without stopping for tires, Jimmie Johnson and Marcus Ambrose remain at the front of this field, along with Elliott Sadler in 4th and Carl Edwards in 8th. Everybody else in the top 10 has been in the pits at lap 28 and taken on at least 2 tires. "56 laps complete. Jimmie Johnson has led half of them." You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Get the checkered flag ready. I'm going to victory lane. You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
We're under caution at Bristol with the Fred's Discount Stores Toyota of Todd Bodine all torn up. The accident not so much of his making. There is Bodine on the outside.
That's a 55, I believe, Michael Waltrip. He comes up into Todd, gets Todd into the wall, and then that's a chain reaction. The 8, the 2, and the 29, all with quite a bit of damage.
Here's a closer look at what happened at the contact.
Just Michael went clear of Todd, came up in front of him. Now you can see these guys. That's pretty heavy damage on both those cars. The 29 and the 2 both.
And looking back from Michael Waltrip. Wow.
Well,
in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and that 64 car, it hit hard down on that inside.
That was a hard lick.
Todd was 7th quickest in the first practice, had a good qualifying run for Larry Gunselman, and now they've got a wrecked race car.
But you're right, there was just so much chain reaction behind the 64 when he got into the wall. Now, pit road is closed right now because they've been trying to clean up the apron where the 64 car had landed there. Not sure if it's going to be open this time or not. Yes, it is. They are waving the green flag, so pit road will be open. And that may be about the right time for that caution for everybody to hit pit road. But, Darrell, it looks like the 48 is going to stay out again.
Wow, that's surprising right there. Now, we're at 63 laps. I would have come that time and done a little service on the car, a little tires, fuel.
Jimmie and Elliott Sadler in the 19 both stayed out. Steve Burns.
Mike, Ryan Newman saying his car has been snug in the center of the corners for the since the start of this race. Just a small air pressure adjustment, 4 tires for Ryan Newman.
Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola too fast exiting the pit.
We had about 10 cars that stayed out, and I think a couple of them were trying to get that track position like Jeff Burton had started in the back of the field. Matt.
It was 2 tires the last time in for Jeff Gordon, the 24 team. Steve Letarte calling for 4 this time. 21 green flag laps on that last set of right sides. Slight chassis adjustment. Take sometimes some lugs have fallen off on the front. He's going to lose a few spots here on pit road, Larry Mack.
I think I saw all types of different strategies. As I mentioned, 10 cars stayed out. I think we had several cars going with just 2 tires, and like Matt just reported, Jeff Gordon 4 tires.
So Jimmie Johnson stays on track, and so does Elliott Sadler in the 19, working without his usual crew chief, Kevin Buskirk, who has some kind of a digestive tract ailment. Robbie Loomis is on the pit box for Elliott today.
You're going to have to get a merge sign down there at the end of pit road.
Merging traffic?
Merge, because those guys come out there. Then I think there were 8 of them trying to go across the line at one time.
But yeah, Mike, Jimmie Johnson, Elliott Sadler, is where at lap 65, the 3rd caution, the 48 and the 19, they have not been to pit road since the start of this race.
Well, you know Darrell's trademark line at the beginning of each race as they take the green flag. Mountain Dew came to Bristol and with Darrell Waltrip had a little bit of fun with his trademark phrase.
There's folks over here, and they're going to do boogity, 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 let's go racing, boys! Boogity, 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 let's go racing, boys! Let's go racing, boys! Do I sound anything like these people? Boogity, 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 let's go racing, boys! Thanks, Darrell. How about another big hand for Darrell?
Well, the best contestants got the fans on their feet, just like DW did on race day when he wheeled the old number 11 Mountain Dew Buick to victory here at Bristol.
That was a cool thing to do. That was a lot of fun. And Mountain Dew people had a little stage set up back here, and we drew a crowd, man.
Lots of imitators, only one original.
Yeah, they were good though. I have to do that some more.
Looking at Marcus Ambrose, who will restart 11th.
I like what Frankie Kerr has done with this 47 car. You know, Marco started back in the 13th position. He was one of those cars that stayed out on that first caution, actually the first 2. And Frankie Kerr, the crew chief, brought him to pit road. Didn't really give up that many positions. They're going to restart in 11th after coming in 2nd.
Sterling Marlin got the free pass, so only John Andretti 1 lap down.
Oh, we're going to have a
restart.
New sheriff in town here very shortly.
A sheriff named Bush.
Uh-huh.
Kyle Busch in the 18 car moves up the racetrack, gets that run on the high side. I would say he'll take the lead probably when we get off of turn 2, maybe before turn 2.
Why wait?
Yeah, he's liking that outside. That is really, really working.
Go down here, corner. You're clear right there.
Now, most likely, once he makes that pass, he'll back off a little and start running the bottom and just save a little time.
Well, that was his fastest lap of the race, Darrell. 16:01, coming on lap 69.
Yep.
Ambrose battling Casey Mears, and here's Denny Hamlin up in 11th place.
I think Hamlin is on his way to the front too. He's been working his way methodically. He's taking his time. He's going to be okay. Trying to get by the 07 here.
Now, Casey Mears in the 07 that we're looking at right there, that's one of those cars that stayed out on that last caution.
Denny Hamlin, like the rest of the Joe Gibbs drivers, have had no trouble leading laps here. It's hanging on to that lead and sealing the deal. As we told you at the top of the day, he's led the white flag lap here the last 2 years, but somebody else went to victory lane.
Yeah, our leader, he's sitting out there and leading the race now, and he did that yesterday for a long time until he had trouble in the pits. So he's right now saying his prayers, hoping he doesn't have any issues in the pits or anywhere else.
This is one racetrack you don't dare leave, even with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning.
No, sir.
Looking back at Jeff Gordon in the 24 car. He's running in the 14th position. Came to pit road and got those 4 tires, and he's working the high side with Carl Edwards in the 99 in tow.
Just got to be so careful when you're back here. You've got a fast race car. You just got to take your time, and that's where patience comes in. Got to be patient with the other guys. Not so much for you, but the other guys.
I'm still very impressed with the runs of Jimmie Johnson and Elliott Sadler. 75 laps in, neither one has been to pit road, but they're able to hold second and third, all because of track position. How about the 48, Krista?
Yeah, Mike, really, they said he's doing so well in holding his lap times. They feel like he'll be able to hold on even on those old tires. Right now, Jimmy's saying his car is just a little bit snug in the center and loose off.
what he better hope is that that little switch in there that flips when the tires go all at once doesn't happen before he gets in the pits and gets him 4 new ones, because that's exactly what happens. They're holding great, the car's handling good, and man, like you flip a switch, she goes off.
Well, he pretty much is holding station with Kyle Busch. That gap is remaining constant at 3/4 of a second. Johnson has led more laps today than in all his prior Bristol races combined.
Yeah, he said earlier that with all the starts he has here, one of only 6 tracks that he's not won at, that he felt like he was the biggest problem. He has not figured out how to run 500 laps from start to finish at this racetrack effectively.
9th place battle here. Darrell, you're right. Denny Hamlin did a very patient job of working his way up from 24th place to now the top 10.
Denny needs to win a race. I think it's really what he needs right now. He's just a little bit down because he hasn't been winning races. He needs to get himself pumped back up and a win and do that for anybody.
Greg Biffle running in 5th, challenging Mark Martin for 4th, and now Dick Berggren. Biffle's the new 4th place car.
Yeah, he's got a very good race car, Mike. Greg Biffle does, but he's less worried about the car than he is about himself. Earlier this week, he had an accident fishing, dangerous sport fishing, it turns out. He fell off his fish boat, landed on his back, tore the cartilage off several of his ribs, and he's a hurting guy. But moments ago, he radioed the crew and told them that although he is in pain, it's not getting any worse. The key for Biffle, do what Darrell said, be able to roll the thing on the truck at the end of the day. Biffle has finished all but 2 of the possible 6,010 Bristol Cup laps he has had a chance to run here.
And what he's talking about and what he's complaining about is usually after the race, not before. Those are kind of injuries you sometimes have when the race is over with.
But Darrell, when you're strapped down in that race car, especially if you've got a good race car like he has today, you kind of forget about those injuries or those things that might have been hurting you.
I agree to some extent, but rib injuries, I'm telling you, when you're leaning on that seat on that right side and you got ribs over there that are hurting, that'll catch up with you before the day's over with.
Toyota top performers, Kyle Busch out front, David Rudiman and Marcus Ambrose.
You know,
both been strong here all week.
The flu or, you know, something like that, race car's good therapy. But broken ribs, race car not such good therapy.
You know, when Kyle Busch, he's already won 2 Camping World Truck Series races. He's won a Nationwide Series race. He won the Sprint Cup Series race at Las Vegas. He became the first driver in the history of NASCAR to win in all 3 series in the first 4 races of the season.
Wow. Well, he is setting a good pace here, because look on the left of your screen. There are some good cars that are now in the danger zone of going 1 lap down, because Kyle Busch is within a straightaway of the pack you see on your left.
And just remember that 17 car's been in the wall. That 2 car has been in a wreck. So those cars may be off the pace a little bit right now.
And then you saw Kyle Busch's teammate back there, Joey Logano, in that 20 car. He's in a couple of danger zones. Danger zone of going a lap down, as Chris Myers pointed out in the pre-race. Danger zone of being out of the top 35 when we leave here.
Now, that means when we go to Martinsville next week, he would have to qualify on time and not have a top 35 exemption.
Now, you want some bad news? The 29 was in a wreck. Got the whole right front fender torn up. You want some good news?
We're at Bristol.
It's at Bristol, and then they're going to make any difference. Actually, it's going to play to his advantage, because that tire is going to stay cooler. The buildup in that tire will take longer. That could be a plus for him as the day wears on.
Harvick works underneath Robbie Gordon.
See that tire sticking out there, getting that nice.
About 4 heavy, real slow on the top.
Nice little fresh air blowing on it.
And they're telling him about a slow car in the top lane. Harvick needs to get under Robbie Gordon, pin him behind Sterling Marlin. Didn't happen. Gordon got there first.
You know what? Kevin Harvick actually right there did a little give and take. And that's what you've got to do this early in the race, even when you're trying to fight to stay on the lead lap.
I think that 09 is headed to the garage.
Mark Martin, Carl Edwards fight for 12th place. Somebody's got into Mark a little bit in the left rear.
Casual contact.
That's all. Martin trying to be the first driver to win at Bristol from the pole since Rusty Wallace did it in 1999.
Mark would just like to be the driver of that 5 car that finishes a race.
Good job. That's an awesome job. Way to stay patient.
Kyle Busch leads Jimmie Johnson by 1.2 seconds. When will Johnson pit? Stick around.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Budweiser. Reach for the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager.
Kyle Busch with a 2-second lead over Jimmie Johnson. David Reutimann, Greg Biffle, and Denny Hamlin's fought his way up to the top 5. But look at this. Clint Bowyer in the 33 just finally busted through this pack and did it the hard way. Used up a good bit of bumper, but made it through.
But you'd never look. There's just a whole wad of cars right there. You didn't used to see that here.
No.
Everybody get down on the inside, run single file, but now you get behind these guys running side by side. Where are you going to go?
I think desperation is setting in with this group because Kyle Busch in the 18 car is on the same straightaway as this group.
Somebody here has to make something happen. Back at 4th place. Here comes Hamlin. Matt?
Mike definitely on the move. When they restarted, they were back in 10th on lap 68. The only real issue he's had today, the water temperature was a little too warm. They took a piece of tape off. Like everyone else, a little tight to the center. Forward bite, though, still exceptionally strong, and it's showing it on the racetrack.
And that's nobody knows this better than our buddy and our partner over here, Darrell Waltrip. Where you beat people at Bristol is from the middle of the corner to the start-finish line. You don't beat them getting in the corner. And how about 3 wide with David screaming the 12 threading the needle there?
That's what I said. You got to make something happen.
There's the leader looking right
there. There's Sly. Look at the 18. He's the leader.
You got 2 guys in there for sure. The 29 to 17. They don't want to go a lap down right here. And Kevin Harvick at 29 is trying to push through this mess.
Joey Logano, that is Busch's teammate, just ahead. And then Sam Hornish in the 77. Fastest car on the track right now is Hamlin. His lap times 1660s, low 1670s. Biffle right there with him. Joey Logano trying to stay on the lead lap just ahead of his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate. This is Logano's first Cup race at Bristol. Today's Home Depot rookie file has Joey's impressions of Thunder Valley.
Yeah, I think you hold your breath around this place. You know, you get into banking, and instead of it really throwing you to the right, it kind of sets you down into the race car, just because there's so much banking. So it's different. Obviously, I don't know what they were thinking when they thought of making this much banking with a half-mile racetrack, but it was a crazy idea, but it worked out awesome.
He is he was one position ahead of Scott Speed, still is. There's Speed to the right as Logano tries to keep from going a lap down.
Yeah, and if you don't like the racetrack, you better get over it because they're not going to change it.
No.
we will continue to come here twice a year
so
for many years to
you
come.
might as well get used to it.
Now Busch is faster than Logano, no question. Trying to give his young teammate as much opportunity to stay on the lead lap as possible because Kyle Busch still has a 2.5 seconds lead to work with. Dale Earnhardt Jr. fought his way up into the top 20 after starting to the back with a transmission change. Steve?
Mike, he sure has. Now, Dale Earnhardt Jr. saying the car is tight, but it's not as bad as it has been, particularly over a long run. One adjustment they have made to that 88 car, Mike, they took a little tape off the nose on a previous pit stop, running just a little bit hot.
And that's one thing that used to really aggravate me. Everybody wants to put tape on the grill. Not on a short track, not here. You run too close to other cars. You don't need tape on the grill here.
And of course, the reason they put tape on the nose is to help that thing to turn. I always felt like this was a no tape racetrack.
You got it, buddy.
Now, Darrell, look at what Kyle Busch is doing. He continues to run even with Logano, so Joey's either on the lead lap or the 20 car is in the free pass position 1 lap down. But how much can you help a teammate without hurting yourself here?
Well, when they tell you how close the 48 car is or the 2nd place car, then you decide if you probably need to go on.
You know, as I watched those 2 rookies run there together, Joey Logano in the 20, Scott Speed in 82, Darrell, this had to be the worst year in the world to be a rookie in Sprint Cup Series. You know, you've got this new car that's fickle. You can't go really test it, and you just don't have any experience in any of these racetracks.
Yeah, I think that's probably the downside to no testing is the fact that some of these guys who need laps on the racetrack. That's all Joey Logano needs. He needs laps. But he can't get them because they can't test.
We got
26
Jamie McMurray,
around.
the 26.
I think I saw that brewing.
Just trying to get her going here. Just got a little bit of damage on the rear there.
And the bad news for the Gibbs team may be that Kyle Busch had just passed Sam Hornish to put Hornish a lap down. So we'll see who gets the.
I think if we go back and look at this, we'll see some interesting development here.
Like
that.
Okay.
Juan Pablo Montoya, the 42.
That's just the start. That.
Yeah.
See, Juan Pablo is one of those guys, he's kind of like old school. You hit me once, I hit you twice.
Jamie was running in 9th place when this happened.
It's off turn 4, go down to front here.
This is the track where emotions flare.
Yeah. You know, that was, as I said earlier, that was casual contact. We got the leader on pit road. Casual contact, you got to deal with that, not the way he did.
And this is the caution that Jimmie Johnson and Elliott Sadler needed, Dick Berggren.
And Greg Biffle needed it as well. The car is very close to just the way he wants it. Biffle has called for the changes he wants, which is to loosen it up just a little bit. Steve.
Track bar adjustment for Ryan Newman. He said the car was cutting just a little bit too good. 4 tires for the 39, Krista.
Jimmie Johnson making his first stop of the race. The car just a little bit snug. It will definitely be 4 tires for Johnson. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch saying he needs his car to turn just a little bit better in the center. Matt?
Impressive run so far by the 00 David Rudiman. Chassis adjustment. Says it just needs more help in the center of the corner. It's just too tight. If they can get that, they've really got something. Service complete. Lutz around finally to left rear, and he's away.
Yeah, I think that was one of those cautions with coming about 60-something laps since we last were on pit road. Everybody went with 4 tires.
Boy, Jamie McMurray missed his pit. Wow. We're under caution at Bristol. Doubleheader action next week at Martinsville, Virginia, one of my favorite racetracks. The Camping World Truck Series on Fox, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and Sprint Cup Racing presented by the Home Depot, 1:30 Eastern Time next Sunday. Be there or be right here with NASCAR on Fox.
If they're not mad at each other after this one, I'm sure they will be after next week.
Another short track. We love it. Kyle Busch ready for the restart with Jimmie Johnson, Denny Hamlin up to 3rd, David Rudiman, and Marcus Ambrose hanging tough in 5th.
Yeah, you got to be lean and mean. If you're going to lean on people, you got to be mean.
Green flag. Juan Montoya not penalized but warned by NASCAR about aggressive driving.
Yeah,
we're back under green.
That wasn't very nice.
Hamlin drag racing Johnson for 2nd.
On the high side, and Rudiman up there in that 00 car, you can just get such a good run up there, and there's just good grip in that 2nd groove. Again, now everyone is pretty much on equal terms as far as tires. Everyone came to pit road and got 4 tires on that caution.
And you have to love Chad Knaus. Stayed out, got the caution right when he needed it.
Watch Tony Stewart. He's kind of got himself boxed in here behind John Andretti, a car 1 lap down. And how's he going to get out of this one? Just like that. Move over, Jeff Burton. I'm coming.
Well, Jeff, he knows Jeff Burton will let him in. Now, Jeff Burton's one of the few guys I would try to squeeze in front of, but he would definitely let you in.
Boy, Burton there in the cat car just ahead of Carl Edwards was 32nd before he stayed out on the last caution, and he was up to 11th when this yellow flag flew, so he's coming to the front.
And that's their game plan. They do it every week.
Darrell, going back to Chad Knaus, and he doesn't like it that I believe I'm understanding this now, but if you look back at our FedEx Understanding the Race, the trends, on the average, the longest green flag run we have here is 98 laps. I'm telling you, Chad Knaus calls his race based on trends and patterns.
I totally agree.
What do they say over on Wall Street? The trend is your friend. Well, that was last year, early last year.
I don't even.
Yeah,
why did
never
you
mind.
bring up Wall Street?
Didn't want to ruin your day.
I believe that 48 car, it took a few laps for the tires to come in on that car, because now he's back battling Denny Hamlin in the 11, back for second.
Kyle Busch gets to drive away from these two, and David Rudiman closes in on the battle for second.
But this is where Denny Hamlin needs to be smart. What are you racing for right now? I mean, racing's okay, but don't race him so hard. Give the man some room.
All right, 137 laps complete. Time for a good old NASCAR on Fox. Thunder Valley, crank it up.
Let's bust some wind.
Kyle Busch is a runaway train. 1630s. That makes him the quickest car on the racetrack right now. He's opened up a 2.5-second gap on Jimmy Johnson, who kind of has a rearview mirror filling up with Denny Hamlin and David Rudiman.
Did you see all that fire coming out of that 83 car? Fire breathing, splitter dragon, winged monsters going around here.
Bristol stomping.
You got it.
But the thing about Kyle Busch, that 18 car, give him about another 6 to 8, maybe 10 laps. He'll be catching a lot of desperate people at the back of the pack.
Boy, Jamie McMurray has been in the wall again. You'll see it from Kevin Harvick's point of view. Watch the Irwin car.
I think it's that car that Biffle had at Atlanta.
Car just had that four-wheel drift. Now, Jamie, even after being involved in that caution back on lap 123 with the spin, he's still on the lead lap.
The first few cars just look so good. Come up off the corner. They're not sliding the back tires. Things really are handling that 18, 48.
Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR, wants you to know who ran the first sub-15-second lap at Bristol. While you're at Ask.com, enter the NASCAR Challenge to win daily prizes or a trip to Talladega.
He got our attention that day.
Yes.
He did it.
That's something I never thought I'd see in my life.
148 laps complete. There's Dale Earnhardt Jr. right behind Elliott Sadler, 17th and 18th. And Kurt Busch running right with Earnhardt. Can't make the pass that time. And again, Earnhardt dives to the bottom. Battling for 17th. Remember, he started 41st, took the green flag 41st after that transmission change.
Just listen to how you're not in the gas hardly any time at all here. Off the corner and halfway almost down the straightaway, you're out of the gas.
I just believe if that 88 car can get up there with those guys running at the front, based on what we saw in practice, and that's how far he's behind the leader, I think he can be a contender.
Kyle Busch about to cap some lap traffic. How will they factor in?
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing is sponsored by Ask.com, where do NASCAR fans get answers. Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR. By AT&T, your world delivered. And by Lowe's, for all your home improvement needs. Lowe's, let's build something together.
162 laps complete. Kyle Busch in the 18 has been fighting his way through traffic that he is putting a lap down. And a couple of times I thought we'd have a caution pretty well just in front of him. So what's Kyle thinking about as he's working lap traffic? We listened in.
Just keep track of the race. I think we're pretty good here for a while. You know, pay attention to what the 48's saying, what the 11's saying. You know, second, third, fourth. We can keep up with what they're doing. Yeah, 10-4. We do it.
Now, the reason he says we're real good, we're okay right here now, this racetrack is notorious for rubber building up on top of it. And the rubber will actually turn into little wads. And when you run across them, sometime it'll start to chatter your tires loose. So he wants to be sure that they stay on top of what other guys are saying about the track.
A couple of cars they want to stay on top of. Those two cars right there, David Rudiman in the 00, Marcos Ambrose in the 47th. That's 4th and 5th right there. Great run for these two guys. Rudiman has had a fast race car here all weekend long in the 00.
Really has, and Marcos is just doing a wonderful job today in that 47 car.
Yeah, the Australian's a nice surprise up here in the top 5. In fact, Toyota has 4 of the top 5 spots. Every car in the top 5 but second place Jimmie Johnson is a Toyota.
And of course they're missing their normal gas man on that 47 car, but I noticed on their pit stop they got in and out of the pits right with the leaders, so they're not hurting.
Kevin Harvick in the 29 about to surrender a lap to Kyle Busch. Or is he? Krista's in the leader's pit.
Yeah, you heard the radio communication, Kyle saying keep an eye on the 11 and the 48. Just after that, he actually added another car. He said, I want to add the 00. He may be the car as he actually gets passed for a position, but Kyle said the 00 may be a car to watch besides us.
I definitely believe those two Michael Waltrip cars there we just talked about, Rudiman and Marcos Ambrose's two cars, that they're going to have to keep a watch on.
Matt?
And the 47 of Marcos Ambrose running in the 4th position. He made a comment earlier that he felt like that the car, although it was tight in the middle, it wasn't bad, but it was a little loose. He called it a lazy loose. And what they told him, his spotter said, try to dive in the corner to try to help your exit and your forward bite. And you can see he's definitely doing that, and it's picking up the times.
And Matt, you can do that as long as you're not really battling someone. If you do that with someone behind you, they will root you out of the way and they will freight train you.
Yeah, you're right. But lazy loose, what he's saying is it's just kind of slowly stepping out. It's not really scaring him. Snap loose is what you don't want.
That's 4th and 5th place. Now Jeff Gordon is stuck in the middle with John Andretti up high, Montoya on his tail, and he had David Reagan in the UPS Ford just ahead. That was a wad that now seems to sort itself out just a little bit, Matt.
And one comment that Jeff Gordon made, Mike, under the last caution to Steve Letarte, he said simply that the car is tight and free on exit, but his biggest issue, he said, is that nobody can really pass. They'll give you the bottom, but you can't clear the other drivers, so that's why you're seeing more guys run a half a lane up or a lane up from the bottom.
And we're seeing that right now with Kyle Busch. He is working. He finally gets by Kevin Harvick, but he almost lost it off of 4 last time by trying to get by Paul Menard in the 98 car.
Tell you what, Harvick is not going to give up in that 29 car. He is trying desperately to be the first car a lap down.
Watch this. 98 car Paul Menard, he gets Kyle pinned down on the bottom, and man, whoa. That's not lazy loose right there.
No, not that. Ryan Newman is back up to 6th place.
Great qualifying run.
Yep.
Good practice yesterday. 2nd quick in the 2nd practice.
And led 25 laps early in this race, Steve.
Mike, early in this race, he was tight in the center. Ryan Newman just telling his crew that he's got now just a little bit loose off.
That's kind of the trade-off. Driver complains about being tight in the middle, so you take wedge out. Now driver's loose off.
Kyle Busch continuing to try to work race traffic. Took him a long time to get past Paul Menard with 179 laps complete in the Food City 500 at Bristol. Getting ready for the restart. Kyle Busch has led 122 of 194 laps, and he's out front as they get the green.
Just an update on Greg Biffle in the 16 car. Krista was talking about them changing 2 tires at the last minute. Greg Irwin, the crew chief, called an audible, went with 4 tires like everyone else after 60 laps since the last caution.
Good audible.
Big day for Toyota so far. 4 of the first 7 spots with Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Marcus Ambrose, David Rudiman.
I'll tell you, I'm pretty impressed with Marcus Ambrose today. I mean, he is on it. He's trying to put a nose up under Jeff Gordon there and get by him right now.
Casey Mears, the 07, a lap down. Denny Hamlin, the 3rd place car in the 11.
He might be in the Little Debbie's car today, but he's playing big with the big boys right now.
Yes, he is. Yeah, pretty impressed with his run. We talked about David Rudiman, his teammate back there in 7th, and Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42 car, still solidly in the top 10 after qualifying 12th.
Marcus has an auction going on to benefit the volunteer fire departments in his native Australia fighting the bushfires. Go to marcusambrose.com for details, and maybe next week we'll have a chance to show you some of the neat stuff that he is doing to try to help. Kyle Busch, your leader as we cross the 200 lap mark in Bristol.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of Joey Logano and the number 20 team. By 12 Rounds, starring John Cena, Friday only in theaters. And by Napa Auto Parts. Napa, get the good stuff.
Well, Kyle Busch picking up just where he left off, running off from the field while it's still very close quarters all the way back through as we have 27 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, but there's some good. I mean, the 48's just kind of lurking not too far back and keeping pace pretty well with the 18 right now.
And we got a pretty good battle right now back for the 12th position between Carl Edwards and the 99. And how about Travis Kvapil in that 28 car? He qualified in the 17th position. He's battling Carl Edwards. In our news and notes in the pre-race show, talked about Travis Kvapil losing his ride. I'd more like to phrase it that I think they're going to be closing that team down due to lack of sponsorship. It's not like Travis Kvapil is going to be replaced.
Yeah. With Travis, it's no dough, no go.
There you go.
Dick Bergman.
Yeah, Larry's got it exactly right. If they don't come up with a sponsor between now and Martinsville, the team is gone. The crew chief, Ben Leslie, has a job. He works for the Ford Motor Company, but everybody else will go unemployed. And so just as the race began, here's what Travis Kvapil said to his team. This is our last race here, and we need to show them how bad we want to race this year. Perhaps if they have a terrific run, somewhere along the line, somebody might see the value of sponsoring this number 28 car, and they can go to Martinsville and beyond. That is their desire.
I think they're missing the boat. If a company doesn't come on board with that car with Travis Kvapil and Yates Racing, I think they're missing the boat. There's Marcos Ambrose. He just drives by the 24 car of Jeff Gordon. That moves him up to the 4th spot.
Now, we've talked about this as one of the Michael Waltrip's cars, and they have an affiliation with Michael Waltrip Racing, but the car is owned by Jody and Tad Geschechter and Brad Doherty, former All-Star and now a part of the ESPN broadcast team. Doherty finished 2nd last night in his celebrity race as part of the Scott Saturday night special, and had a blast doing it. So a great weekend all the way around for this team.
And Frankie Kerr, the crew chief on that car, he was over there with Rudiman for a while with Michael, and he's a good crew chief. He knows how to get a car set up for these kind of racetracks.
.40 laps to halfway.
You know, this car here, Darrell, Kurt Busch and the 2-car Pat Tryson, what a great recovery they've made. Remember, they were involved in that chain reaction back on lap 59 when Todd Bodine wrecked on the front straightaway. They've stayed on the lead lap, and now, Steve, they have worked their way almost to the top 15 up in 16th.
Larry, it's like you guys said, you don't have to have a pretty car to win here. What Kurt's fighting right now, though, is they don't have a lot of grip, and that's what they worked on in the last pit stop.
They've definitely made a nice recovery with that 2-car, a place that he's won 5 times here at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Those first 4 cars are just back to Jeff Gordon, actually. They're matching lap times. There's 16:40s, and there'll be 2 or 3 or 4 one way or another, but pretty much matching lap times right now.
500 laps at Bristol. Jeremy Mayfield once described it as going around in a closed drive for 3 hours and somebody loses a sock or two. But as these drivers approach today's race, what do they think of going 500 laps at this place?
When a race starts, you're not thinking about the 500 lap. You're thinking about the first lap and taking care of business right now.
If you go into it thinking 500 laps, it just makes for a miserable day because it takes, it seems like it takes forever.
I remember I think it was the first Cup race I ran here. One of the first Cup races, man, I was driving my guts out, and Bobby Hudson was spotting for me. He said, "All right, that's 200 down, 300 to go." I thought, you got to be kidding me, man.
That's where we are right now. 217 of 500 laps complete.
And then the thing about racing here now with this new racetrack configuration, don't get that many cautions. We do a lot of green flag racing, and man, that will get to you. That will wear you out.
I'm hesitant to say it, but this is about the time of the race we get those long green flag runs.
Yeah, everybody's kind of adjusted up, kind of know what they got. You've learned to kind of deal with it, whether it's a little loose, a little tight. And so now you just put some laps in.
Now that's a car we've not talked a lot about. Clint Boyer in that 33 car right now. He's up in the 14th position. Clint qualified in the 31st position, but didn't qualify on Friday. It's like the racetrack for the first 10 or 12 cars was just very slick. Clint Boyer's had a fast race car in every single practice.
Yeah, he had a bad qualifying draw, but I watched him through the first 100 laps there. Very aggressive, trying to work his way through traffic and get up to a place where he can run the car at his own pace without being in constant side-by-side traffic.
You know, on the old racetrack, there were all kind of.
Oh boy!
Look out!
Wow, another. That's about the third thread the needle job by Boyer.
On the old racetrack, there were all kind of excuses for running over each other. Actually, on this track, there are no excuses for running over each other. You got a lot of room to operate here. We've seen 3 wide, a lot of passes, easy to get around here now.
Back up front, Kyle Busch has opened up 1.9 seconds on Jimmy Johnson. But as Darrell pointed out, they continue to run virtually identical lap times.
Stay tuned for more NASCAR on Fox.
Here's our UPS Maximum Performance. Think of Bristol as Circus Maximus. And DW is the track's all-time winning driver with 12 victories here, 7 consecutive wins at Bristol. So Darrell, we're coming up on halfway. What does a driver have to do to achieve UPS Maximum Performance here?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most obvious thing I could say, and that's first you got to finish. That's the biggest thing you got to consider when you come here. And the other thing is keep your car all intact. Don't tear your car up. If you saw my car, almost after every one of those wins didn't have a scratch on it. So you pick your times, pick your places, pick your fights. Be there at the finish.
And there's the all-time win list. Kurt Busch and Jeff Gordon with 5 apiece, the leading active drivers.
You know, Mike, when I looked at Darrell's numbers, obviously 12 wins at one racetrack is impressive, but to me it supports what he was talking about. Always drove his car to the truck after the race. How about 26 top 5 finishes for DW here?
Wow. Greg Biffle, we're told, having some trouble here. Dick?
Yeah, Biffle is losing positions, Mike, and it has nothing to do with his health. The right rear tire on that car, he says, is going soft.
You know, as we're approaching about 11 laps from halfway, there was a little concern about the right rear tire here. There were some cars in practice yesterday that made some 30 and 40 lap runs, and there was a little bit of hazing, a little bit of wear on the outside of the right rear. They felt like the Nationwide Series 300 lap race would improve that with the rubber going down.
That's why I was talking to, I was trying to get Krista down there to see the 48 cars tires, because, you know, he ran 120 some laps on that one set of tires. You're right, we were seeing some wear on the edges of the tires in practice.
Now Biffle continues to run 13th. One driver who was up in the top 10 and has now slid back to 20th is Tony Stewart. What's up with Tony, Dick?
Well, Mike, he came in as one of the favorites to win the race because he has led so many laps here. The last 3 spring races, he has led 51% of all possible laps, even though he has not won here since 8 years ago. But he has been struggling with the race cars. Stewart says the car is just fine in the middle of the corners, but coming off, it just is too loose. So they've been working on it, and on the last pit stop, they took a long time to make major adjustments to the number 14 car. It doesn't seem to have helped. He hasn't picked up the positions that they hoped he would.
See, Darrell, Mike, that was the characteristics in yesterday's Nationwide Series race. They ran the same tire that the Sprint Cup Series runs. This track got looser. It did not get tighter as the race went on.
Now on the right, you see Jimmy Johnson trying to battle Michael Waltrip and Denny Hamlin closing in. What about the 48's tires, Krista?
Yeah, you guys were talking about that. You know, it's exactly what I asked Chad Knaus this morning about the tire situation. He said he wasn't concerned about it because here the hot temperatures really don't come out till about 4 o'clock. He said in practice they didn't have any problem because they weren't up to temperature. I just went down and asked Lisa Smokestad, the tire specialist for the 48. She said even with that long run, they have absolutely no tire problems.
Which is typical for most racetracks we go to. NASCAR depends, boy.
Hey, be smart.
No kidding, that wasn't.
That's Curtis Markham, Denny Hamlin's spotter, just telling him, hey, we're halfway. Be smart here.
I got to tell you, you back up. I was going to say, I bet if you back up, there's a reason for what happened. And there it is.
Coming off turn 2, little.
And Denny's saying, you know, what are you doing? Where are you going?
Yeah, because Hamlin was trying to be cautious, lapping Bobby Labonte, and Marcus wanted to go, and now they're side by side. This is for 3rd place. Matt?
The Ambrose and Hamlin teams, Mike, are pitted next to each other on pit road, and Mike Ford looked down to the 47 pit box, pointed to his head. Everybody acknowledged the same exact thing. Too early to be racing like that. Everyone's got to think, just like what Curtis Markham told Hamlin.
Well, and right now, the smartest thing the 47 can do, he doesn't have to pull over and just say, okay, you can have the spot. But the 11 is obviously quicker. He was going to spin him around if he doesn't let him get by.
Ooh, a little contact there?
No, they'll have more because it's just not necessary.
No, I guess not. Just
there
close.
You go. Now, that's all you have to do.
Right.
Run up the hill, let the man go by, and I'll follow him.
Got a long way to go.
How come I, you know,
you make it sound so easy.
They just need to stand up here for a little while. It's the blind obvious, I reckon.
You know, Darrell, I think you and I have been watching the same car here for the last few laps. A guy that's kept his nose pretty clean. Kasey Kahne in that 9 car qualified in the 5th position. He moved up into the top 12 in points after Atlanta by finishing 7th. He's just had a nice, clean, quiet race so far, Darrell.
Yes, he has. I've been watching him, and the car is very steady, very consistent.
Krista has more.
Clean, quiet, and solid. Kasey Kahne, the condition with his car from center off has kind of changed throughout the race, but really he's been loose in the entire race. They've attacked that with air pressure adjustments, and it's starting to come around. Kasey Kahne currently 7th on the track.
And you know, Larry, this is the first time he's been in the top 10 in points since August of last year.
And look who he's chasing. Montoya, Jeff Gordon, the 24, Marcus Ambrose, and the 11. That's all for position. That's 3rd through 7th right there.
Right there with him.
Now they're about 2.5 seconds behind leader Kyle Busch, but just 1.1 back of 2nd place Jimmy Johnson. 256 complete in the Food City 500.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is delivered by UPS, official delivery company of NASCAR, and proud sponsors of David Reagan and the number 6 Ford Fusion.
266 laps complete. Kyle Busch still your leader. April 11th, Fox Saturday Baseball returns with some of the game's greatest traditional rivalries. Red Sox at Angels on April 11th, Colorado at the Dodgers on the 18th, and the Yankees at Boston April 25th.
Hard to believe baseball season is here.
They beat on baseballs, we beat on race cars with bats.
Kyle Busch at 269 laps has led nearly 200 of them. And he has put half the field a lap down. Tony Stewart is the last car on the lead lap in 21st.
We still have 39 cars still on the racetrack. The cars that are out of the race: Sterling Marlin, Joe Nemechek, Todd Bodine, and Dave Blaney.
And when you look at the racetrack, you're never in clear sailing. You always are in traffic. You see that the 18 car, Kyle, is coming up on the back of his teammate, or on the back of Tony Stewart in the 14 car. There's cars all the way around the racetrack. You're constantly working traffic.
Well, this is the longest green flag run we've had. We've been running now for 72 laps, close to 75 laps under green.
Tony Stewart last year led half the laps, now in danger going a lap down, but with a different team. Here is Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has fought his way from 42nd at the green flag up to 17th. Steve?
Mike, as you said, he had made a lot of progress, but it seems as he's hit a brick wall. He told crew chief Tony Eury, something must be wrong with the air pressures, Tony Jr. The car is too tight to start, and it just won't go anywhere.
And you know, this is kind of what plagues the 88 car, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Eury Jr. They either don't adjust enough or they over-adjust. They have a tough time seemingly keep up with the racetrack for a 500-lap race.
Now he has 3 seconds plus a lot of cars in between from going a lap down, so should be able to stay on the lead lap.
And Mark Martin said something interesting the other night. He said, you know, we try setups. We got four cars to pull off of. Mine, Jeff's, Jimmy's, and Dale Jr.'s. I try all their different setups, and I actually ended up liking Jeff Gordon's setup the best. Now, in my mind, if I was the 88 car and I had a teammate that had a car that was running like that 24 is, you know, I would pull off of that information and apply it to my car. I just don't know if they're doing that or not.
But you know, we're seeing, I think, this racetrack go through some changes right now as we're approaching the 300-lap mark. And that's exactly what Kyle Busch was talking about when he talked to Steve Addington earlier. Keep up with what other guys are doing, what other teams are doing, adjusting their car.
Now this is tricky because Busch is trying to lap Stewart and the 19 of Elliott Sadler, who are running different lines. And then there's Hornish, who's already a lap down. You'll pick your way through here pretty carefully.
And you do, and it's been some time. I can't tell you how long ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, when you could see cars running up around the top of the racetrack the way they are here this weekend.
2-2, just 2.
I mean, Tony is desperately now trying to stay the first car a lap down. Should we get that caution, he would get the free pass and be back on the lead lap.
Ryan Newman started this race on the outside pole, but he's in 10th place right now. Steve?
Mike, he's lost some positions here recently. He said his car's gotten loose, but he's also a little concerned. He said he feels a vibration in the right front. He's heard it for about the last 15 laps.
And what's not good about that? That's one of the cars in the danger zone. They come in here 32nd in the points, only 47 points to the good inside the top 35.
Battling David Gilliland in the 71. Gilliland 2 laps down. Kyle Busch continues to add to his lap leading total here at Bristol.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Sprint. NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race.
291 laps complete. Kyle Busch trying to put a lap on Elliott Sadler in front of an nearly packed house here at Bristol Motor Speedway. In fact, Sadler figures in our Ford Drive One moment for today, because in the spring of 2001, Elliott Sadler earned his first career Cup victory right here at Bristol. He was driving for the storied Wood Brothers and drove his number 21 to victory lane in front of another famous number, the 43, owned by Richard Petty. By starting 38th and going to victory lane, he has won from the furthest starting position at Bristol. Want to win a Ford Fusion? Log on to WeRaceYouWin.com and see how.
His crew chief that day was Pat Tryson, who crew chiefs with Kurt Busch. It was their first career wins as a driver and a crew chief that day.
And the first in a long time for the Wood Brothers as well. Now, we had a great battle going on between Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42 and Jeff Gordon in the 24. But Matt Gordon has dropped back a bit. What's up?
And the comers and goers, he's going. The last stop, he said the car was snappy loose. But his most recent report, when he was running fifth back on lap 280, Steve Letarte says the car started off very loose and now it's very tight. Now he just said about a lap ago that it's extremely plowing. He's just holding on until their next stop so they can try to make a track bar adjustment and fix it.
Kind of makes you think maybe the right.
I have a problem. Get ready.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe the right front tire's going down. If the car changes that quickly, it makes me believe there's something going on with the right front tire.
But now he's up in the high lane. He's going to have to first get to the bottom to be able to get to pit road.
Seems like it's gone.
He's either worn it out or it's going flat.
And we've now been 100 laps into this run. Remember, Jeff Gordon is our points leader.
Longest green run of the day. Now remember, under caution, everyone enters the pits off turn 2.
Don't come the whole pit road.
There you go,
As
Mike.
I was about to say.
It's a different format under green.
You can pit on the side where your pit stall is. You don't have to go all the way around if you pit under green.
And they remember that car at Daytona had a little bit of a camber issue, was wearing out the inside of the tire. That camber makes the car turn really good, but it's hard on the tire.
So for now, Jeff Gordon continues in 8th place.
Yeah, we're about 30 to 35 laps away from what would be a scheduled green flag stop, and it's not unusual to have a green flag stop at Bristol.
Nope, not anymore. That's a good heads-up call on Steve Letarte's part, though, to remind him that if it's under green, come off of turn 4.
Jeff Gordon is one of those drivers that's made that mistake before.
And somebody asked me how that could happen, and I told them, I said, you just get you a big old rock and tie it on the end of a rope and go out in the yard and spin around for about 5 minutes. And then when they tell you to come to the house, you stop and you say, where is it?
Yeah. Ask.com asks you to ask, what car manufacturers won the most races here? Get the answer now at Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR. Eric Almirola in the 8th brushed, I believe he brushed the wall in 1 and 2.
I think you're right.
A lap ago. And now Greg Biffle does have a big problem, Dick.
Yeah, he's lost a cylinder in the engine, Mike.
And this is normally a place the engine guys are just not very nervous. Darrell pointed it out early. Yeah, you turn a lot of RPM, but he just goes up there and just spikes for a second.
Look at the 42 looking in to get past Biffle. Juan Pablo Montoya had an interesting line in practice. He was running the track a little differently from everybody else. Perhaps that's his road racing and Formula One background. But he's been very competitive here today. And in 12 short track races, though, he only has one top 10 finish. That came at Martinsville in the fall of 2007. But Montoya has really been up on the wheel of that Target car today.
Good job.
Got a good car.
Tell you what, our little pole sitter, Mark Martin, in that 5 car, he kind of fell out of the picture for a little bit after leading the first couple of 3 laps, but he has worked his way now solidly back into the top 10. In fact, he just goes by his teammate Jeff Gordon, and that's for 8th. Matt.
And Larry Mack, the 5 car, Mark Martin, riding along, he says at this juncture, his biggest issue is the car was good for a very long time, but now it's slowly starting to go pushy in the center of the corner. He wants a small air pressure adjustment when they make their next stop. He doesn't want to take a real big swing at it and maybe knock themselves the wrong way as far as the handling department goes. They're very close. Right now, he's just riding.
And just FYI, what happens to a driver is he'll fight that wheel early in a race. He'll deal with some issues in the car early in a race. But as fatigue sets in, start to get tired, your arms get a little weary, the car has to, all of a sudden you start complaining the car's not handling. A lot of times it's you're the one that's not doing your job because you're just kind of getting tired.
But didn't you run cross country back in high school?
Oh,
a
yeah.
little track.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't you always come out of the blocks blazing? And
Oh,
it
yeah.
took you a while before you eased back a bit and realized, hey, this is a long race.
Yep.
You run cross country?
I did.
I'm impressed.
They told me a hubcap and holler police, and I was out of here.
Car in the wall, turn 1, David Gilliland. He's going to straighten it out, though.
And he'll get to the bottom, and we
Yep.
stay green, so he'll make it to pit road, it looks like.
Oh, that was a close one.
He was running 3 laps down with his 71 car, and I think our 88 car just went a lap down to leader Kyle Busch.
Yes, he did. Look at Denny Hamlin catching his teammate and race leader Kyle Busch.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by McDonald's. By FedEx Racing, we understand every day is race day. By Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic, our ultimate clean, your ultimate feeling. And by Lowe's, for all your home improvement needs. Lowe's, let's build something together.
Brian Vickers cuts down a tire, puts us under caution. Pit road is open, and here they come with a new leader, Denny Hamlin. Dick.
David Stremme is in the pit. He started 29th. He's moved up to 15th. Roy McCauley told him he's doing a good job, but so did the captain, Steve.
Ryan Newman getting loose. They've just dropped the track bar. 4 tires. Krista.
A little bit loose for the 48 also. They are making a track bar adjustment, and for Kyle Busch, just a puff of air out of the tires. Matt.
Drivers talk about how the track is starting to change. They're going to creep down the track bar a quarter round again on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Chris?
Time for an AT&T race break, and from your phone, text the car number for the pit crew you think will be the fastest and most valuable in the race, 2258, the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award, delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. Moments ago, we had a lead change. Now, for a while, Kyle Busch and Jimmie Johnson have been running 1-2, and those two have combined to win 15 of the last 33 Cup races. But here, as you watch Gibbs' teammates, Jeff Hammond, go at it, that's Kyle in the 18, Denny in the 11.
Brendan Needle right here bounces off the 17 of Matt Kenseth. Right here, Denny Hamlin decides he wants to lead, and he drives it on the outside around his teammate. A little bit of a roadblock, maybe about a rookie right there, Joe Logano, but eventually Denny Hamlin does take the lead away from Kyle Busch.
So we have now 9 lead changes, 7 different leaders, and Kyle Busch has dominated early on in the first 100 laps. It was Jimmie Johnson who has yet to win a race here, even though he has been a short track wizard. So we again are under a caution flag. From the Hollywood Hotel, Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers. Hope you're enjoying NASCAR on Fox from Bristol. We haven't quite seen the temper. We had Juan Pablo Montoya having a little bit of fun. Some people have had scrapes with the walls, but so far the temper is under control. Patience for the most part.
All right, how far are we into this race right now, Chris? We got about 180 laps to go. Guess what? The water is getting ready to be turned up. I mean, the stove is going to get warmer. It's going to start to boil over. We're probably going to see some stuff start happening now.
Now let's do a quick recap because things got started in a hurry. John Andretti, hang on. You know that banking, and banking's an adventure no matter where you are these days. Kurt Busch, last week's winner. Kevin Harvick and a Todd Bodine wreck get into it. Then Kyle Busch, you're taking the lead. This was on lap 69. Jimmie Johnson had led the first 41 laps of the race. And here's at Juan Pablo Montoya. This is maybe as close to the overheating as we've seen. Tap 1 to tap twice. He got a warning from NASCAR, but
goes down to give Jamie McMurray a little love tap right there and says, don't do that again, Nelson. I'm telling you, round he goes.
Not get the punishment. So let's talk about Jimmie Johnson, who has yet to win here, but certainly has been a short track king.
Yeah, he's been a short track king, but right now he's probably the best car we've seen him, you know, at Bristol in quite a while. He has an opportunity right now. He's leading Jimmie Johnson, Denny Hamlin, but for Jimmie Johnson, he's going to have his hands full, I think, with the 2 Toyotas, the 11 and 18 of Kyle Busch, because they have definitely been the cream of the crop as far as that's concerned.
And Denny Hamlin, 34 races since his last win. It was Martinsville last year. From your AT&T phone, text the car number 2258. The fastest pit crew of the year award delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network.
174 laps to go, getting ready for a restart. Here's Jeff Hammond with today's State Farm Safety Report.
In the past, we've talked about safety as it comes to tires, as far as the interliners and how important they are to the race car. But what about what holds the tire to the car itself? The rim, the wheel, if you want to say it, steel construction, 5 lug nuts. All of this right here is 15-inch design is because NASCAR understands that these cars, especially the right front, they're seeing 4,000 pounds of load when they enter the corner. So that's the reason why NASCAR and SFI work together to make sure they've got the proper wheel for the safe condition.
Thanks, Jeff. Getting set for the restart. That's the 2010 Ford Shelby GT500 at the front of the field. Now, that was supposed to pace the race at Las Vegas, and everybody on the Shelby website said, no, that was a 2009, not a 2010. This is a 2010. Look at the grill, Darrell. That's how you can tell. Traditionally, the Cobra Snake is on the driver's side of the grill. For 2010, that's where the engine fresh air intake is. They had to move the Snake over to the right. This is a 10. That was a 9.
Mike, I love you, man.
Jimmie Johnson at the front of the field after pit stops. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Marcus Ambrose, and Casey Kane are the front 5.
And you see Matt Kenseth on pit road. He has a broken front splitter. That's the reason he had to make that extra pit stop.
All right, we're back under green in the Food City 500 at Bristol. Working around the lap car of Michael Waltrip. A lot of pit road speeding penalties in that exchange. Greg Biffle, Michael Waltrip, Reed Sorensen, and Eric Almirola.
This one it gets a little bit interesting right here with these lap down cars now. All down on the inside. Everybody kind of rooting and gouging, trying to make a little room so they can make a little move forward, maybe get the lucky dog. A lot happening right here at this point in the race.
I agree with Jeff Hammond, though. I think this is where they're going to start to ramp it up just a little bit. We got 170 laps to go. As we say, business really about to pick up.
And I just can't stress enough. And folks, I'm sure if you work out at all, you know what I'm talking about. These guys have been out there now 330 laps. You get a little bit tired. You get a little bit, your focus is off just a tad from the beginning of the day. That's why you have to really stay up on the wheel.
Kurt Busch battling David Reagan and trying to stay up in that high lane and move around some of the lap down cars. Kurt is 12th. Jeff Burton just ahead. Last year's winner here is 11th.
You know what I mean about business picking up? We're at lap 333. Jimmy Johnson just ran his fastest lap of the race, as well as Marcos Ambrose in the 47 car back and forth. You know, that was the longest green flag run that we have had at 124 laps. The reports from the top 3, the 48 car, Jimmy Johnson, the tires look good. On the 11 of Denny Hamlin, showing some cords around the right front, and on the 18 of Kyle Busch, some cords showing right front and right rear.
That's just about a perfect tire, because you didn't have to go much further. You're going to have to pit anyway, so you want your tires to be worn out, and that's almost perfect.
Out of tires, out of fuel.
How to come in.
Montoya giving up a spot here to Ryan Newman coming off turn 4. Here they come. Newman on the bottom. That'll be eighth place.
It's hard to watch for someone who's coming here as long as I have, to watch a race where that inside line just didn't 100 times faster than the outside line. But today you can hold your own up in that outside pretty well.
I've got to believe Ryan Newman and Tony Gibson, they were glad to see that caution. Remember, it wasn't long before that caution that Ryan Newman was reporting a vibration in that 39
That's
car.
right. Dell, remember too, when they resurfaced this track, they put a progressive banking in it. The upper lane is banked more than the lower lane, and it has kind of been the tradition of tracks that are configured like this, that after the rubber gets worked in, that high groove is often faster than the short way around.
Well, it certainly is in the race, because you get such a run off the corner. You get up high and you get that great run down the straightaway, and you can take the guy on the inside's line away, and he can't go anywhere. You got him bogged down.
Now Brian Vickers has had his problems. He cut a tire down, got to pit road, got it fixed, but didn't have any drive off turn 2. Watch the 83. Joey Logano is going to get to him and give him a wake-up call.
So, man, you're holding me up. That's what I'm talking about.
Joey's back in the 26th position, 1 lap down.
One thing I like about this car, we've mentioned it many times, but the front bumper and the rear bumpers line up. They're flat. So you can give a guy a bump like that, and it doesn't spin him out. The old car was like a snow plow. You'd go up and bump somebody, jack him up, turn him around. Don't do that with this car.
Battle between Montoya and the 42. Ruderman in the 00 continues for 9th position. Martin Truex Jr. in the 1 car right now in 21st, 1 lap down.
By the way, that last caution flag, Dale Earnhardt Jr. got the free pass, so he's back on the lead lap. Boy, Clint Boyer, I don't think he's been out of traffic the whole day in that 33.
He's been working.
Well, when you start back where he started back in 31st, you're going to be in traffic. But the guy I'm impressed with, Dick Berggren talked about his pit stop a while ago, was that 12 car, just a couple of cars up in front of Carl Edwards. Great run for David Stremme. Right now sitting up in the 13th position, up in the top 15.
How about just dropping back a tad further? There's the 44 car of Allmendinger. He's running 16th. Hadn't said a lot about him today, but doing a pretty darn good job as well.
Been a team and a car and a driver. They've had to qualify on time these first 5 races. We go to Martinsville next week, at least for the 1 race. That car should be and will be in the top 35.
Jimmy Johnson has led since pit stops, and he's out in front of Denny Hamlin now by 0.8 of a second and 1.3 seconds up on Kyle Busch.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Verizon Wireless. Get the inside track from Penske Racing and race analysis, plus highlights and high-speed action, all on VCast from Verizon Wireless, America's largest, most reliable wireless network.
Things have heated up at second place, and Kyle Busch didn't so much pass his teammate Denny Hamlin as, well, what would you call it?
He moved him.
Move over.
He moved him over and went on.
Teammates be darned. Kyle Busch is trying to get back to the front. He's now in second, 1 second behind Jimmy Johnson.
Can you imagine the Coach Gibbs and all the boys on these two teams, of all the laps they've led here and had great cars, and they're running great today, and they don't have anything to show for it?
No.
They're just sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Meanwhile, Greg Biffle has gone behind the wall, and they are loading his car in the hauler. Dick Berggren.
And Greg Biffle physically is just fine. I just talked to him, Mike, and he certainly could have gone the distance in this race. And it was a real surprise to find that the car is the element that failed in the team. The engine blew up.
So Biffle will finish 39th today.
We have definitely seen more engine failures out of the Roush Yates camps. As far as that engine department this year. Several at Las Vegas. I think Travis Quapple at Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. A lot of failures so far out of those engine guys.
And I just keep questioning every week, these cars are faster than they were last year. And I haven't heard any real changes on gears. And I think these cars have gotten so much better. They're running faster around the racetracks, and they may need to revisit the gear rules that they've got for every racetrack.
Another car that spent most of the day in the top 5 and has now slipped back to 6th is Marcus Ambrose. What's up, Matt?
Impressive run by the 47, currently running in the 6th spot. A few laps ago, he came on the radio and said it feels like we may be losing the motor. He hasn't given any further updates. His spotter did tell him you might want to try to move up a lane, try to keep the momentum up as much as you can. They're waiting down here for further updates from Marcos.
His lap times look comparable to Jimmy Johnson, the 48 car leading the race. Johnson just ran a 16.76. Ambrose just ran a 16.70.
But once again, I'm going to throw this out there. At this point in the race, this is when you quit being a driver and start being a passenger. And you want that car to do all the work because you've done all you can do. And so the car doesn't feel good to you now because you just can't manhandle it like you were for 2/3 of the race.
Yeah, you can keep shoving on that thing for 300 laps, but we still have 135 to go.
And with all the green flag racing we're doing right now, I'm telling you, you get arm weary up in one of these things.
Next week, our second short track in a row will be at Martinsville Speedway for NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing, built by the Home Depot. Next Sunday, more of the same.
And what has happened to our leader, Jimmy Johnson, in the 48? He's catching a lot of lap traffic. And in the meanwhile, Kyle Busch, the 18, who just took second away from his teammate, he wants the lead of this race back. 48 car really stepping up to the plate on that last pit stop, gaining 2 spots. But Krista, right now, they may be in danger of losing the lead.
Well, and lap traffic was actually a strength. We heard earlier in the racetrack announced to tell Jimmy, you're killing them in traffic. But right now, yes, it is a problem. And really, this was a two-phase race for this team because this is not one of Jimmy's better tracks. He wanted to make it to halfway because in the past, that's when he gets frustrated. Now, he can be calm.
He can't be calm right now, Krista. He had Kyle Busch all over him on the high side, and you saw he gave Busch plenty of room, and now comes back at him at his rear bumper.
Overdriving behind you.
Jimmy Johnson said in pre-race he considers not winning at Bristol a career failure. I don't think he should be that hard on himself.
Oh, man.
Nothing easy about winning here.
The man's got a lot of years ahead of him. He'll be all right. I saw some old guys out here racing yesterday. He'll be okay.
Well, they're log jammed in front, and Johnson had a look on the bottom. See if Casey Mears gives way or goes after that 43. He's going after him.
And that was interesting what Jeff Dickerson, Kyle Busch's father, just told him when he went by the 48. He said, overdriving behind you like Jimmie Johnson was trying to overdrive his car, but now he's back up there on the rear bumper as Kyle Busch is in heavy traffic with Casey Mears and Reed Sorensen in the 43.
This is the hardest thing for Kyle Busch to do, to restrain himself.
He's going to switch lanes, run you up top here, corner up top, 48 corner.
Darrell, this has got to be so tough when one lap car wants to run the bottom, another one wants to run the top. Where do you go?
Yeah, well, that's the thing I say. It's hard to restrain yourself. You get frustrated. You really want to boot that guy out of your way so you can go on, but you just can't do that. It's too dangerous the way this track is now.
So Kyle Busch has got to be disciplined and take what the racetrack will give him at this.
And beg your spotter to go spotter of the 43 and say, please cut me some slack.
125 laps left to go. Last August, Kyle Busch led 415 laps and finished second to Carl Edwards. $117 laps to go in the Food City 500. Leader Kyle Busch and runner-up Jimmie Johnson are out there in clean air. Not so third place Denny Hamlin. He has a big wad of traffic to get through, and he's trying to pick his way through it, but a lot of those cars are battling for position as well. Hamlin has a bit of a lead. Casey Kane on the fourth place car, Casey Kane right at the end of that pack, but a little bit white knuckle racing in there. Now Kane has to pass the same cars with the number 9 that Hamlin just dealt with.
And see, when you get in situations like this, it breaks your rhythm. You will hear the spotter say, get back in your rhythm. Once you pass somebody, you kind of get going and you get back in your rhythm. And that doesn't mean to turn up your iPod. It just means that when you're going down a straightaway, you listen to the engine. It's, there you go. Now he will hear that sound on both straightaways and he'll back off at that same pitch. That's part of the rhythm. Then the other part is off the gas, little brake. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. And you just get in throw the car in, catch it, pick up the gas, touch the brake. Listen for the rhythm of the engine.
We asked a number of the drivers in today's race to expand on that thought about the rhythm of racing at Bristol.
The thing about Bristol is it's rhythm. It is rhythm. It's about doing the same thing right over and over and over.
Because there's no other track like this, so it's not like you have this ingrained, sense for what's fast.
Usually, if you're consistent here, it's as good as being fast.
It's a nightmare when you can't get into that rhythm and you can't get the car working the way you want it. It's a long day.
Jeff Burton's had a little trouble finding that rhythm today. He won here last year, leading the last 2 laps in an overdrive style shootout. But this hasn't been the best day for the Cat car, but slowly, methodically, he's worked his way up to 11th.
And just another little piece of the puzzle is hand-eye coordination. When you hear the engine where you want it and your left and your right hand is up on top of that wheel where you want it, that also is a signal that everything is going the way you want it to. A part of the rhythm package.
Steve?
Mike, exactly right about Jeff Burton, last year's winner. However, once he got in or around the top 10, the problem is the back end has been just a little bit too loose for his liking.
Boy, he just cracked the top 10 because he drove by David Rudiman in that double zero.
He had that back end out like he was talking about, too. That thing was swung out there loose.
But he's definitely our biggest mover. Remember, he started in the 38th position, so he's gained 28 spots since started this race as we're approaching 100 laps to go.
And as you watch his hands, when his hand is right where he wants it to be, that's time to pick up the throttle. He waits on the car. He pulls the wheel down. See how it's down? Now he says, okay, I'm ready to go now. Now I'm back up on the straightaway, and that's just all part of getting in your rhythm.
Ahead of him, Montoya's the 9th place car.
But the way he drives the car, that's old school driving right there. Most of these kids today, they want to hold the wheel at 3 and 9 and drive it like a go-kart. That's the way we used to do it right there, man. You got to crank on it. When it won't turn, what do you do?
When I said he had trouble finding his rhythm, it's because he's been in heavy traffic all day. He really hasn't had a chance to just run those kind of laps you talked about without dealing with other cars, one side or another.
They do definitely look like Scott Miller in that group. They've made the right adjustments. They've kept up at the racetrack because he just took that position away from Montoya. That moves him up to the 9th spot.
12 rounds open Friday. It opens this Friday, and that is a thriller with wrestler John Cena in the starring role. And if Bristol's not enough excitement for you and you can't wait for Martinsville, go and see 12 rounds. That's a corker.
This is about the point in the race, Larry, when I'd say, how many more laps are there to go? They'd say 50 more to go, 50 more.
And they'd be lying to you.
They'd be lying to you.
How many now? Well, there's still 50.
Well, let's make it 100.
And then you'd get really mad and say, well, I get in there.
Well, hurry up and get in here then.
That's
Finish
right.
this thing off.
That's right.
I've been helped out of the car, carried out of this place many, many times from cramps, dehydration, and worn out. This place will do it to you.
Now that's Travis Quapples trying to stay on the lead lap. He's back in the 18th spot, so he's picking them up and laying them down.
He is having a good run. 100 laps to go.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by 12 Rounds, starring John Cena. Friday only in theaters.
So if you take DW's advice, the wife's got chores for you to do, tell her there's only 45 laps to go.
Yeah, and it'll only
Actually,
take about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's 89 laps to go, and the 3 leaders are all together, courtesy of Travis Quappel. Quappel in the 28 was trying to keep from going a lap down, and he really held up Kyle Busch, and then he held up Jimmy Johnson a bit, and Johnson a little close encounter right there. Now Quappel's got nothing to lose, everything to race for and nothing to lose. If they don't find a sponsor, this team has to shut down. He was really working hard to stay on the lead lap.
But I got to tell you, this thing is starting to really get tight up near the front. That 18, the 48, the 11, the 9, the 5, those guys are there.
Tell you what, I believe if we get us another caution, this 031 car, Jeff Burton, they're going to be a player because there he is battling Jeff Gordon for the 8th position. Remember, Jeff Burton started back in the 38th position.
But this is the way Jeff Burton would run this race. This is the way Mark Martin would run this race. Kind of lay back, don't talk about me much. Come inside 100 laps.
Go get him.
Well, it's not laying back so much, Darrell, as it is Jeff Burton doesn't care if he leads 300, 400 laps of this race. There's only one lap he wants to lead, and that's about all he led here last year in winning.
He's getting himself in the hunt.
And I tell you, our leader, Kyle Busch, in that 18 car with about 84 laps to go, he is in heavy, heavy traffic behind Eric Almirola and Bobby Labonte in the 96.
I don't like this because Almirola hasn't been on the bottom all day, so that is where Busch has to go. Bobby Labonte hasn't got off the bottom all day.
Well, and what you don't like is for Kyle is that, you know, we know he's very impatient. And we know he can get very frustrated in a hurry. And here he is with guys that are going to race him pretty hard. And that just gets to you, man.
He's trying to force the 96 to give him the bottom lane. And that's a little bit of a struggle there.
You got the 48 now that, you know, if he happens to make the right move, he could pass him right here.
Looks like Jimmy Johnson's going to jump to the high side, follow Bobby Labonte. If Kyle Busch can clear that 96 car, you can see how he pulls Jimmy Johnson off the corner. I think he'll make this pass in 3 and 4.
Yeah, he just dove it in there pretty hard and got the line, got up in front of Bobby Labonte there.
Darrell, this I don't understand. Bobby Labonte's one of the cleanest drivers on the racetrack. If you race him clean, he'll give you all the room you want. If you want to muscle under him, you'll get him up on the wheel.
Yeah, well, the problem is that you can move to the high side now on this racetrack. And you can maintain a pretty good speed up there and choke that guy on the inside down. Yeah, Bobby's trying to get out of the way, really, but he can't just put on the brakes and pull over.
I know we've been watching what Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson's been doing, but that 11 car, Denny Hamlin's right there. But here's the car that's been on the move. Casey Kane in that 9 car. Krista talked about him earlier. He's just been having a nice, solid, quiet day. And here he is with 78 laps to go, sitting there within striking distance.
Well, there's some boys up there, but there's a man back there in the back, too. That 5 car's not 4 behind, and he's got ideas about getting up here and making a race out of it before it's over with.
Our pole sitter, Mark Martin.
Mark dropped back a bit. He has only led once today for 2 laps. And you're right, he's had a pretty quiet race. Just kind of been lurking there outside of the lead.
Now here's what we need to set up. We're getting close to 100 laps into this green flag run. We know there's going to be one more pit stop whether we stay green or not. But remember, on the last green flag run, at about 120 laps, we started seeing some people have some tire issues wearing the tires out.
So when will they pit? We'll find out. 75 laps to go at Bristol.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of Joey Logano and the number 20 team. By Taco Bell, think outside the bun. By AT&T, your world delivered. And by State Farm, where great coverage meets great rates. 65 laps to go here in Bristol, and there's your leader. Kyle Busch has dominated. Led after 100 laps, led after 200, led after 300, and after 400 laps. The driver, though, here at Bristol, who's led the most laps, Kyle Busch, in the last 6 races here, has not won. And just moments ago, Dale Earnhardt Jr. about to get lapped.
Yes, it'll be the second time today. Dale Jr.'s car is not working. They've had an opportunity to get it better, and it's just not paid off for him. So once again, he's getting ready to go back down another lap, courtesy of our leader, Kyle Busch.
And Jimmy Johnson currently running second. Denny Hamlin third, followed by Casey Kane. Veterans like Mark Martin and Jeff Burton moving on up, as DW and Larry have talked about. He is now 7th. What about the chances of Kyle and Denny Hamlin, teammates, young and restless, tangling toward the end?
Well, it's all, I think, going to come down to the pit stop. Larry McReynolds was talking about how close we're getting to a pit stop, and I think it's going to be decided on pit road once again with a green flag stop. We saw yesterday where Kyle Busch led and dominated the nationwide race. They had a problem on pit road. It cost him a win there. So you've got to have an opportunity right now that once they get on pit road, those crews cannot afford to make a mistake. Neither can the driver getting on pit road under green flag stop. We haven't done that all day today.
This scene in Bristol, like a Greek theater, it might be the theater of the absurd when we see those stops. And talking about the pit stops, these are Jeff's choices for today's AT&T fastest pit crew: Hamlin, Johnson, and Kyle Busch. Don't forget to vote the AT&T fastest and most valuable pit crew of the year from your AT&T phone. Text the pit crew's car number to 2258. And we appreciate your vote. That's it from the Hollywood Hotel. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. 59 laps to go. One more pit stop in the offing. And Kevin Harvick up against the wall in turn 4. This could be the caution. It is.
There it is. There's the
everyone
caution.
else has been looking for.
It looked like I might have had a tire, Larry.
What a weekend, bud. What a weekend. You think of anything I had more fun doing?
Well, one thing he did have some fun doing, he won the Nationwide Series race. The first time he's ever won a race in his own race car in the Nationwide Series. But it's been a tough weekend in this 29 car.
They've had trouble with that car ever since they backed it out of the truck. There he goes. Pow.
A well-worn path up to the safer barrier.
Now, the good news is, not a lot of good news, but we do have interliners in the right side tires here. That's one thing that's a little different about this place and others, the short tracks. We do run interliners in the right sides.
That's just a safety shield in case the tire goes down.
Conspiracy theorists unite. Dale Earnhardt Jr. got the free pass.
And that's how many today?
Well, it's 3, but in this case, you just couldn't time Kevin Harvick. Okay, it's 2. Kevin Harvick losing that tire. Pit road's open, and here come the leaders. Let's start with Steve Burns.
Mike, Jeff Burton just saying my takeoff is a little slow and I'm a little freer than I want to be. Crew Chief Scott Miller says let's go up on air pressures all the way around. A half pound in all 4 tires for Jeff Burton, Krista.
Jimmy Johnson is tight throughout the center. It's going to be a 4-tire stop for the 48. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch is saying his front end is tight and his rear end is tight in the center. He doesn't know what to do. Steve Addington said let's go back on that air pressure. Matt.
And Denny Hamlin is in. He says the car is way too tight, 3/4 of the way through the center, just like it was in practice. He needs it to be freed up a lot more. Trying to get the left sides on. Sherman's got the lefts on, and the 11 is away.
Tell you what, that 18 crew didn't get beat off pit road that time. Look how big of a lead. That Casey Kane in the 9, Kenny Francis, they were the real winner.
Yeah, I tell you, that 9 car is coming, Larry. Watch his lap times. He's as good or better than anybody right now. I'd watch him.
The Gibbs cars will be up front on the restart, and nobody hungers more for a win in Thunder Valley than Joe Gibbs drivers. We'll tell you why when we come back.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Subway. The big event is back. Any regular footlong for just $5. Subway, eat fresh. By Lipitor. By Sprint, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. And by the all-new 09 F-150. It's not just a new truck, it's a new F-150.
One lap to go, and we'll restart with 51 laps to go. Leading is Kyle Busch. Last summer here, led 415 laps. Finished second. Today he's led 322 laps, both dominating performances. Hasn't been able to find victory lane. And right behind him, Denny Hamlin. The last 2 spring races here, he's led the white flag lap. He hasn't been to victory lane.
Those guys have got to be sitting on the edge of their seats. Car owners, crew chiefs, drivers. Hamlin dominated Richmond last year, led about 2/3 of the race, didn't win.
Ready to go green with our Claret and Clear to Drive restart. Get Claret and Clear, get back to feeling like yourself again.
Well, all I know is there's 160,000 people standing on our feet. If you ever go down to the local short track for the 50-lap feature, that's what we got here. 51 laps to go at Bristol.
Plus, we just had a pit stop, get something to drink, get freshened up, get up in the seat, tighten them belts up. Real tight. Let's go racing, boys.
Marcus Ambrose back in 8th spot, has dropped a cylinder. So he'll fade a bit. He was in the top 5 most of the day.
Yeah, he
Sam
would have.
Hornish pitted out of the box. Got a 1-lap penalty.
Marcus may have been all right if they hadn't had this caution here where everybody gets fresh tires. Down a cylinder hurts you a little bit, but you can kind of keep up when everybody's on old tires. Whoa, Jimmy Johnson. Look out, Jimmy Johnson.
Mark Martin has edged up now into 4th place with Johnson in 5th.
But just an update. Boy, they are stacked up off turn 2, and they still, I don't think they're finished yet with this mess. But just an update on Kevin Harvick, the 29 car. They did not wear that tire out. They actually cooked the bead of the tire that goes against the rim.
All right, Jimmy Johnson back now in 5th spot. Krista.
Remember what I said, Mike, earlier about Jimmy Johnson being calm? Forget about it. They had a slow stop there. He came in 2nd and went out 5th. They had problems. The lug nut got hung up on the left rear side. Caution.
Yeah, David Stremme spinning from contact going into turn number 3.
Well, that was that area right there, Mike, where you were saying, no, you know, bottled up, and they really were. I mean, there was just a bunch of cars all wadded up right here together.
It's the 8th caution of the day, and it comes just a few laps after.
You know, I
Kevin
think he may have had a tire down or something. Though that car got loose before he got hit.
Let's watch from Dale Jr.'s point of view.
Watch this car wobble right here now. It goes sideways there and again, and then I don't think Junior really hit him.
Nope. No, I think you're right.
Anybody seen Digger today?
There he is.
45 laps to go. A.J. Allmendinger gets the free pass on David Stremme. Spin in turn 3 after losing a tire at lap 455, 8th caution of the day. Here's today's NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile monster moment. Kyle Busch going around Jimmy Johnson. Busch has led 332 laps so far, and there's been nobody that he can't pass.
No, in 3 out of the 5 races we've had this year, you think about Daytona, dominated Daytona, got knocked out in the wreck. Vegas, dominated Vegas. Today, dominated. He's got 1 win out of those 3 dominations so far.
Coming to green with 41 laps to go. There are now 16 cars on the lead lap, including Allmendinger. Right behind Kyle Busch, his teammate Denny Hamlin, just as hungry for a win as Kyle is, hungrier yet. And then Casey Kane, Mark Martin, Jimmy Johnson, the front 5, Jeff Gordon, Burton, Newman, Ambrose, Montoya, the top 10.
Yeah, you've got the 2 Toyotas, the Dodge of Casey Kane, and then 3 of the Chevrolets of Hendrick Motorsports right behind there, 4th through 6th.
Yeah, I think Jeff Gordon, I think they may have made some adjustments on that car because they went way off the wrong way there the run before, but it looks like he's keeping up pretty good this time.
They seem to have a short run car, and that's what we've got. When they put those tires on, it's 51 laps to go.
And two guys, Larry, that I think have done a great job today. Come in here just kind of on the bubble. Mark Martin in the 5 and Ryan Newman in the 39. Newman sitting there in an 8th spot. He needed a good run today. Hopefully he's going to get a good finish out of this thing. He's been running good all day.
Now, amongst the leaders, the lap cars of Robbie Gordon, number 7, and Bobby Labonte, 96. Labonte holding to the bottom. Lead lap cars working their way past.
Labonte's been a tough pass all day, but even now he's down out of the way, trying to give the guys room. But he's got a decent race car. He just doesn't have a car good enough to hold these guys up.
Tony Stewart in that 14 car, he's trying to stay the first car 1 lap down to get the free pass should we get the caution.
Now behind that group, Jeff Burton, last year's winner, sitting in 7th, battling Ryan Newman.
You know, not far behind this battle right here, we'll continue to monitor Marcos Ambrose in that 47 car. It's been reported he's down a cylinder, but he's still hanging there in the top 10 in 10th with 35 laps to go. There you see Marcos.
It's probably more like what he's accustomed to. It run like a nationwide car right now. A little slow on the straightaway, but digging through the corners.
Holding on to a top 10 spot. Montoya made that move as Travis Kvapil slipped up the racetrack. Montoya jumped underneath. Boy, Montoya's had a great day here, trying to nail down only his 2nd short track top 10 since moving to NASCAR.
Still out there running the top. Still out there, the 28. Still going to be there.
Yeah, I talked to Brian Patty, Juan Pablo Montoya's crew chief, this morning. He said, you know, we are improving every week. We've not had the greatest luck, but we feel good like we're moving forward every single week we go to the racetrack.
Jimmy Johnson gets around Mark Martin there as a power move.
Good job.
That's 4th place. And here comes Jeff Gordon.
1 went on it. 48 went by on the inside. 24 going to go by on the outside. Mark says, hey, teammates, cut me some slack.
Now, while we're watching this battle, nothing's really changed at the front as Kyle Busch is maintaining about a ½ second lead over his teammate Denny Hamlin with now 30 laps to go.
When we talked to Denny Hamlin yesterday, a lot of the comparisons he made to other teams were to the other car at Joe Gibbs Racing at the front of the pack here, Kyle Busch. And those two measure themselves against each other. And I get the feeling there's nobody that Denny would rather beat here today than the car that's right in front of him.
And when I talk about physical and mental fatigue, I think about Kyle running like three races on a given weekend, trucks, nationwide, and cup. He ran 300 laps here yesterday, finished 6th. That's the difference in he and Hamlin right now. Hamlin set out yesterday because he wanted to be fresh for today. So laps around the racetrack doesn't seem to hurt Kyle Busch at all. Matter of fact, they seem to make him better.
I know the magic number there, Darrell. 23. That's how old Kyle Busch is.
Good point.
27 laps to go. Kyle Busch holding off Denny Hamlin by ½ second. Kyle Busch beginning to stretch it out a little bit on Denny Hamlin. 20 laps to go. The two Joe Gibbs Toyotas at the front of the field. Casey Kane 3rd, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon. And contact between David Stremme and Joey Logano 2 laps ago in turn 4.
Well, Stremme's 1 lap down. Logano's a couple of laps down. I think probably just wanted him to move out of the way. I don't think he expected him maybe to knock the fence down, but he did.
You know, Stremme's on a mission right now, trying to get up there to become the first car a lap down. He's got a couple of cars in front of him, Tony Stewart and Travis Kvapil, so he was not going to waste a lot of time behind Logano in the 20.
And the good news is now, if we have a caution, we will have a single file restart because we're inside 20 laps.
Right.
That's huge on this little racetrack.
Two-lane door, corner, clear all the way, all the way.
Kyle Busch is trying to become a 2-time winner at any racetrack for the first time. He's had some coulda, woulda, shouldas here.
Got to be if what happened to him, just think about what happened to him last year. Think about what happened to him yesterday. I can't imagine what's going through his mind right now as he tries to hang on to the win here.
Here's our last Ask.com question. Darrell Waltrip had a 7-race win streak at Bristol Motor Speedway. Who broke it? To get the answer at Ask.com and enter the Ask.com NASCAR Challenge, you might win a trip to Talladega from the official search engine of NASCAR.
That's, you know what, when 7 races, a lot of races. I'll be the first to admit that, obviously. But that's 3,500 laps.
Wow.
Pretty much mistake-free.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that was when Gary Baker owned the racetrack and he hoped to meet a lot of famous drivers at Victory Lane and all he got to see was you?
The only guy he said, man, I could have had my picture made with you at home.
And here's a battle for third between Casey Kane in the 9, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car. Of course, the 48 team lost some spots on that last pit stop as we're closing in on 13 laps to go. You just saw Coach Gibbs. He wants to break a streak of being able not to close the deal here at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Casey Kane had to close Jimmy Johnson quickly because they're getting right up into lap traffic. Here comes Johnson back on the inside, but that's where John Andretti's lap car is.
Yeah, John got out of the way nicely, though.
Yep.
And while they've been going side by side, that 24 car, Jeff Gordon back there in the 5th spot, he's closing in there. You see him right there about 3 car lengths back.
Yeah, they made a good adjustment on that car, the 24 car, this last pit stop, and he is a lot better than he was the last run.
Well, they just showed Kyle Busch 10 laps to go. And Denny Hamlin has closed it down to 0.6 of a second as we watch the battle rage on for third.
There's 10 laps to go. There's about a dozen cars sitting out there in front of him he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part. I mean, he's got a cluster of cars here in front of him that he's going to be right up in the middle of when we come down here to the last few laps of this race. That could be the difference.
The 8 laps to go this time for Kyle Busch, and the 18 car has about a half-second lead over Denny Hamlin with a lot of lap cars in front of him.
Jeff Gordon takes 4th away from Casey Kane, but the action's right in front of the race leader.
You got it. And if you go on the bottom and you get bogged down trying to pass somebody, that 11 can jump to the outside and you can have a heck of a battle to the finish line. Oh, we got a blown engine.
20's blowing up. Caution's out. Caution's out. Caution.
It was the teammate of our 2 leaders, Joey Logano, who was brought out the 9th caution of the day.
Guess what?
Hang around to the truck
there won't be any traffic, any lap traffic in their way when they get this restart.
No, it'll be a single file restart, and depending on how much cleanup may be necessary, we could have as few as 2 laps to go when we go green.
Out the exhaust pipe coming over the front straightaway.
Now that car has smoke coming out of it today, and it had smoke coming out of it earlier this year. Tony Stewart.
For the last 10 years.
Right.
Now what's interesting.
Tough break for Logano. Excuse me, Larry. He is going to have to qualify on time next week at Martinsville. He won't be in the top 35, it doesn't look like.
Frustration in a couple of ways right there. The engine blows up in the 20, and it really changes the complexity of this race with his 2 guys up there leading the race.
Well, I think the thing coach is worried about, we're going to a racetrack that I don't think Joey Logano has been to before. And he's going to have to qualify on time, and that's tough to do at Martinsville.
It's a maybe, Darrell. Depends on how many cars complete more laps than Logano as the rest of this race runs. But he's going to be right on the cusp of being outside the top 35.
Now, here's the situation. We got 16 cars on the lead lap. No free passes available because we're within 10 laps. There's no question the top 8, 10, 11 cars will not pit. I will guarantee you those cars at the back will come in and get those 4 fresh tires because remember, nobody has been to pit road since about lap 459.
Here's what I'd be worried about. Now, wasn't it last couple of times when these 2 cars were running first and second at the end of the race, they got ready to take off, neither one of them would go?
Fuel pickup problems.
Fuel pickup problems, fuel pressure problems. Yeah. I'd be sitting there holding my breath.
Carl Edwards and Dale Jr. come onto pit road, along with A.J. Allmendinger and Clint Boyer. Those are the 4 takers among the 16 lead lap cars.
Now here's where a single file restart on a small racetrack like this, you can't afford to give up any track position. Unless you're at the last car on the lead lap, you can't come in and start 20th.
Well, Edwards was 12th, then Earnhardt Jr. was 14th, so they're not going to lose too many spots.
And remember, one of the rules on a down finger restart within 10 laps, the lead lap, not only is it single file restart, all the lead lap cars go to the front of the pack.
So we're getting down to it here in Bristol. Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin continue the lead, and guess what? More of the same coming at you on Fox next Sunday.
Time for a little Martinsville madness.
The paperclip shaped half mile.
It's the sport's shortest and oldest track.
It's too easy to make mistakes here. You've got to take it easy.
These hardy fans came here for action, and they are not going to be denied.
It just proves 3 wide does not work here at Martinsville.
I love this place. A doubleheader weekend on Fox. The Camping World Truck Series Saturday and the Sprint Cup Series on Sunday from Martinsville Speedway. A little bit of cleanup along the front straightaway of the oil dry that was put down to soak up the fluids that came out of Joey Logano's car.
And I know you want the racetrack to be clean, but that's up high. And I mean, we're down here at the end of the race, 3 or 4 laps to go.
Now look at these front 4. Kyle Busch has dominated this track, hasn't won here in 2 years. Denny Hamlin, we've said, has led the white flag lap the last 2 years in a row here, hasn't won. Jimmie Johnson in 3rd, says his resume is not complete because he hasn't won at Bristol. Jeff Gordon in 4th, other than the qualifying race at Daytona, hasn't won anywhere in a long time.
Since October of 2007.
So we're about to find out who wants it most.
And Casey Kane's in the top 10 in points in the first time in almost a year. So there's a lot of this race went just about like I thought it would. There were guys at the front that didn't stay there, and there were guys in the back that worked their way to the front.
Chris Myers.
Well, we have that movie 12 Rounds opening next Friday. We've had a few laps to go here. Jimmie Johnson off of pit road, the race off with 178 laps to go. He took the lead. Johnson has led a total of 88 laps today, but then Kyle Busch with 131 laps to go takes it back. He has dominated with over 360 laps. Moments ago, the 8th caution coming out as we saw Kevin Harvick having some problems creating a caution. Got a lot of green flag stretches, and then Logano, the teammate of Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin for Joe Gibbs Racing, bringing out the final caution. 13 lead changes, 7 different leaders, but we have teammates Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, followed by teammates Jimmie Johnson and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, take a real quick look. Right, you can see that the leader's Kyle Busch. There's 16 cars on the lead lap, along with that 8 lead changes today. So what I'm looking at right now is I think Darrell and the guys have kind of set it up. When they drop the green flag, I think Denny Hamlin knows he's got to get it done. He's got to get it done in a hurry. And I think Casey Kane, he's going to be Jimmie Johnson, Casey Kane, they're sitting there going to be ready to pounce on these guys real quick to try to take advantage of what might happen here. So I think this restart is going to be critical.
So the teammate stuff may go out the window. It's every man for himself. Mike?
Denny Hamlin told us yesterday he's tired of not winning. He's 28 years old. He thinks he should have more than a handful of wins in his resume by this point. We're going to cross 500 laps this time, which means we go into overdrive and we'll have 1 attempt at a green-white checker. I think if he gets to Kyle Busch, he'll move him out of the way.
Here's a little bit of concern I have. As I was talking about him cleaning up the oil that was in the stay dry, this restart, if Kyle spins his tires, if he gets a wheel spin there on the takeoff, I mean, Denny Hamlin's going to be all over him. Matter of fact, he may be too much all over him. And so that's something that they're both going to have to watch. They're going to have to time this restart just right so that Denny doesn't run over Kyle.
But Mike, you're right. Denny Hamlin told us his rookie season back in 2006 he had the best car for 2 races. He won those 2 races. The last 2 seasons he's had the best car several races and only won 1 time each year.
I just saw Kyle clean them up a little bit back there, and he laid 2 big black marks down. So
all right,
should have them cleaned up pretty good.
That Mustang pace car gets way out of the way, and Kyle Busch brings them down for the restart. We're in overdrive, 2 laps to go.
Everybody got a solid restart, less than 30 seconds. We'll know the winner of this thing. Casey Kane looks to the inside of Gordon. Gordon shuts the door.
Kyle nailed it on that restart. He got it just right. No wheel spin. I think it's just going to be close.
Still fine.
But he's pulling away ever so slightly. White flags in the air.
And it's Johnson to the outside of Hamlin.
Now that could be big.
Hamlin is going to have to deal with Jimmie.
You're fine, bud.
Reutemann gets bumped by Bowyer. And here we come to the flag, and wild thing, Kyle Busch dominates in Bristol. With Hamlin second, Johnson third, Gordon and Kane the top 5.
And Kyle Busch will be stickering all the way to victory circle.
How about the Coach Gibbs there?
1-2.
1-2 finish.
Thanks, Jeff. Way to go, boys. Way to bring it.
You know, it's way too young in his career to call Kyle Busch the dominator, but when he wins, he just really tends to put a whipping on the field.
And what I was curious, you know, last year had a phenomenal year. Sometimes kids will come into this sport and they'll have a phenomenal year. The question I've had all along is, can he continue to do that? Is he going to be that consistent for a long period of time? That's the mark of a champion.
It is the first time Kyle has won more than once at one racetrack, in scoring his 14th career victory. Second win here in 9 races. Of course, he won here March in '07, first time we ran the Car of Today chassis here. And it's his 3rd top 3 finish of 2009.
So I think it's safe to say that no one has visited Victory Lane more in 2009 than Mom and Pop Busch. 3 consecutive weekends for them.
That's right.
And that kid just is right. He raced 800 laps this weekend. 300 yesterday, 500 today.
In the last 2 Bristol races, last summer and today, he's led 792 of 500 laps.
But like Darrell said, this is a rerun of 2008. The question will be, got a long way to go. Can they continue that into those 10 chase races?
I think they learned a lot, Larry. I think the team did. I don't think he had to learn that much. I think the team did. I think you got to lose one to learn how to win one.
And as you mentioned, Darrell, he's also won 2 Camping World Truck races and a nationwide race this year to go with his 2 Sprint Cup victories.
He's on pace to beat the record he set last year with the 21 victories in all 3 series.
Well, he's somewhat repeating his brother's victory lap from last week. He's just doing it nose first.
Well, we're at Bristol. This was always a special track to Alan Kulwicki. There's a grandstand here named for Alan, and this is what Alan self-described as the Polish victory lap. Window net down, facing the fans, and saluting them for coming out here and supporting all these drivers.
In 1992, we all stood here in tears as Alan Kulwicki's hauler left here that day, that sad day, when Alan and some of his crew members lost their lives in an airplane crash here at the Tri-Cities.
Yeah, they were coming back from an appearance in Knoxville, and Kulwicki, the reigning champion of the series, was lost to us. So nice to see that touch from Kyle Busch as now he pulls toward victory lane. Matt?
And a 1-2 finish in overtime for the JGR cars. Denny Hamlin, so describe your car much better on the longer run than the short run, which is what we ended up with.
Yeah, we just had that. We had a long run car. We didn't have that short run car, and there were about 200,000 FedEx employees that were hoping we were going to get a win today, but we tried to get a win for them. Just came up a little short, but congratulations to Kyle. It's great to get a 1-2 finish for Joe Gibbs Racing, and just can't thank this whole team enough. Good job on pit road all day, solid, and just had a solid car all day. We just had a 3rd place car on short runs, and we had a winning car on the long run, just never got it.
And they're going on to Martinsville, a place they had a great year 1 year ago. Krista?
Well, last fall, Kyle Busch led 415 of 500 laps and did not win the race. He has been here in Bristol Victory Lane before, but he's also been the best car that did not win the race. Kyle Busch takes a breath and climbs out of the victorious number 18. As he celebrates with his crew. Celebration becoming familiar for this young man. Kyle, I gotta ask, did last fall flash into your head at all, knowing you were the dominant car then and didn't win? Did you think of that?
It's pretty awesome, you know, this is just, they're a little late, but oh well. You know, this is just awesome, you know, we should have won here last fall, we should have won here yesterday. We've had so many great nationwide cars here too, we just keep messing up on pit road, but I just want to thank Snickers, M&M's, Sprint, Interstate Batteries, Toyota, NOS Energy Drink, Marquis Jets. Of course, thank the fans, you know, they're great for being here too, and so it's just an overall great day. You know, the car handled well, we made some adjustments to it. Steve was good on pit road, guys were great on pit road today, so really came out.
Well, you mentioned yesterday, one thing you've said that's different about you this year is you've learned to take some bad days and kind of salvage something, not let them haunt you. Do you feel that today?
Well, I didn't do so good yesterday of keeping my emotions in check, but you know, this is a little bit of redemption here. You know, this place probably owes me a few, but you can never ask a racetrack to pay you back. You just got to go out there and keep working at it and keep trying to do what you know how to do, and that's to win races. And fortunately today we had a good enough car. We were up there and we had a car to take the shot at winning this thing, and here we are in victory lane. So it's awesome.
With the Cup wins, the truck wins, and the duel, you have won something every weekend. Steve.
All right, thanks, Krista. With Jimmie Johnson, third place finish, a place where you've never won, but I guess the improvement continues. And talk about this day specifically.
Yeah, what a day for us. Truthfully, I wish we had another 500 laps to go. I feel great and really getting rhythm of this racetrack and understanding what I need to do and how to lead Chad in adjustments. So I really have to thank Chad and Greg Ives and our engineering staff sitting me down a couple weeks ago to look at this racetrack and what I really need here. And I made my wish list, and they gave me what I needed. So just a great day for the Slows Cobalt Tools and Paula. I want to thank all the employee owners at Lowe's for supporting us, and all the fans for the 48. Great day here. I know we gave the 48 fans something to cheer for today.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
A dominating performance by Kyle Busch. Close but no cigar once again for Denny Hamlin, Jimmie Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Casey Kane. But how about Montoya with his second career top 10 on a short track, and Marcus Ambrose?
We talked about him a lot in the late stages of the race. Down a cylinder, hung on for a top 10. Darryl.
That's pretty impressive, really, when you have engine trouble and get his top 10 out of it. And Kurt had trouble early on and got in the back of a car and messed the front end up. Carl kind of rebounds, gets to 15th place. And look at Allmendinger, Larry. 16th place, going to Martinsville. Pretty comfortable.
He's locked in.
Pretty comfortable.
Looks like we talked about Joey Logano. It looks like he may hang on to a spot in the top 35 and not have to qualify on time when we get to the paperclip next week.
Looks like the real winner on that top 35 situation. Unofficially, a team that came in here not locked into the top 35. They're going to leave here 35th will be Eric Almirola in the 8 car. They came in here outside the top 35.
And add to that, Mark Martin will be in the top 35 and not have to qualify on time. So here is the danger zone, as we call it. Everyone above the red bar at Martinsville is locked into the field. Everyone below the red bar will have to qualify on time, and this will change week to week with this year's Sprint Cup point standings.
And Travis Kvapil had that good run today, finished up there in the top 20, and sadly they may not be at Martinsville with that 28 car unless sponsor comes their way.
Lots more to come from Bristol Motor Speedway. After Kyle Busch's dominating win, he led 378 laps today. Stick around. You're watching NASCAR on Fox.